Algar Pro Racing car. They'll have taken a look at the car when it came in for that pit stop. Ryan Cullen and Johnny Edgar, by the way, back on pit lane.
We are under safety car. We are under safety car.
Right. Now, looking to what they've done there, he's anticipated the safety car is coming out.
Car 43, let me put the safety car in front of you, please. We are now under safety car. All cars do pick up the pace and catch the line of cars behind the safety car, please.
A chance then, after 60 minutes of action, to remind you, refresh your memory as to precisely what has gone on. Johnny Edgar had a killer getaway, and Sebastian Alvarez was trying to stick with him in the early stages. To the high side, Manuel Maldonado in the number 65, number Canis Racing car, which had a good qualifying session as well. But everyone rather well behaved, certainly in comparison to the Michelin Le Mans Cup start yesterday. And if you haven't seen that, it's certainly worth a watch. Plenty of damaged cars and a number that didn't even make the end of the first sector, let alone the end of the first lap. But in ELMS, we have lost one or two numbers, but in some cases, cars were forced to start with their quickest drivers because of causing red flags in qualifying sessions yesterday. Amongst them, Ben Hanley in the number 22 United Autosports car. Torsten Kratz is just fast. He's bronze, yes, but he's one of the quickest starting drivers out there. That didn't stop him making a slight mistake out of La Source. Terrific overtake from Julien Gerby around the outside of Alexander Bukantsov at Bruxelles, and that delivered him into the apex at Speaker's Corner, turn 9. However, here, Gerby trying to draw level with Miguel Cristobal in the number 17 Cool Racing car. And as he backed off to give Cristobal the place back again, Matthew Richard Bell took the opportunistic moment to also bag a position. Dicing again as Wyatt Brikacek was looking to work his way through. And then the first meaningful accident that involved John Hartshorn, but also two LMP2 cars. Ryan Cullen trying to go around the outside of the British driver in the 66 JMW Motorsport Ferrari, doing a huge amount of damage to the 296. We think the two LMP2s got away with it. The second driver involved, Matthias Kaiser, in his Algar Pro Racing car with really nowhere to go. He almost got through, but then the Ferrari caught the right-hand side and pitched him into a full spin, a 360, but then he came out of it, unblinking, and continued on, but he'd lost about 4 places in the process. The best news was that John Hartshorn was able to walk away. This was a dramatic spin at the top of Radion for Miguel Cristobal in the number 17 Cool Racing car, all on his own, severely delaying Wyatt Brikacek in the number 4 car as well, but he was able to rejoin, and amazingly, Cristobal did not hit anything. As you think about the number of accidents we've seen there over the years. And then this in LMGT3, the 3 leaders, 2 of them getting together, synchronised spinning from Sarah Bovey in the pink Porsche, from Matt Griffin in the emerald green Ferrari, and Johnny Lawson having, in avoiding action, to go left, left and left again, and sadly making contact with the tyre wall. Amazingly, both Ferraris were able to limp back to the pit lane. The 50 car is still running, the 55 with more substantial damage, though, to the rear left corner. And we're now starting hour 2 of this year's 4 hours of Spa-Francorchamps. It's the 4th race of the year. Johnny Edgar did indeed pit for a second time. And
that's important because we are going to close up now under the safety car, and he's fully fueled and nobody else is.
Yeah.
So what he's done is he's given himself a lap, maybe 2 laps more of fuel with absolutely no impact whatsoever on his race position. As long as he's on pit lane before Eduardo calls the safety car, he's absolutely able to leave the pit lane, and he absolutely did that.
Duncan Cameron, who they put into the 55 car, is now getting out because that is over and out, I'm afraid to say, for the 55 car. But yeah, we're trying to work out precisely how much fuel was put in. It's got to have been brimmed in the number 14 Johnny Edgar LMP2. But let's try and find out what's gone on at 55. Here is Steph Wentworth with the team.
Yes, you just saw Duncan Cameron getting all of his gear off, but I am here with the man who ended up retiring the car, Matt Griffin. I'm so sorry that it's ended this way. Do you want to just talk about the instance from your perspective?
It kind of started. It started. It was a bit of a, I suppose, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't know what the word is, a bit of a, I don't even before the race started, really, because of a specific rule in the ACO. We had to start last, and I had to start the race. So straight away, I'm out of sequence with the other drivers around me. So I'm the gold-rated driver. Usually, all of the bronze start. So I was making my way through the pack, and honestly, was up to third, quite relaxed. I went up the inside of Sarah into turn 5. She closed me quite aggressively, but I said, okay, it's spent, and I was on the outside, like looking at her, thinking I have loads of space, and then it was completely ridiculous. I just saw the onboard. It seems like she hit the Lambo, then had a big oversteer moment, and basically took me out of the race. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I don't know why, because if anybody is smart, they should say, okay, Matt's the gold driver, we should just let him go and not fight with him, because Duncan is a bronze and he has to get in next. So the fact that she was even defending so hard against me, I don't know. It's put us out of the race. Completely ridiculous driving.
Yeah, so it's absolutely gutting for you. Surely that's a penalty incoming from them from your perspective.
Yeah, 100%. They took me out, and then she was spinning, and then she ended up taking Johnny out as well. So they've destroyed our team. And what I don't understand is for what? It was, all she had to do was say, okay, Matt's passed me around the outside. I can just chill, and then let's see if I get him back at the next corner or whatever. But at a certain point, you need to relinquish when someone has passed you, you know, and that's why if you race with, you know, if you race with all the pros, if there was a, you know, even though she does get paid, so technically she's a bronze driver who gets paid, which again is a contravention to the rules, but if there was a proper professional there, that incident wouldn't have happened. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Thanks for talking to us, Matt. Thanks.
He's not happy, is he?
I was going to say, the message is fairly clear there from Matt Griffin, who now goes over to chat to Duncan Cameron. Gold versus bronze, he's right there, and sometimes you pick your battles, I suppose, is his argument. So you've got two bronze drivers duking it out for the LMGT3 lead, and he says, well, I am on average quicker, so why not let me go, because the car's going to get slower later on in the race when Duncan Cameron takes over. Be interested to know your thoughts, folks, as you watch that. Agree or disagree, but there's no sitting on the fence from Matt Griffin today.
Well, my view, what it's worth, it was a mistake with extreme consequences, and as Matt quite rightly and emotionally explained, and remember, Matt is a pro paid by the team and the bronze driver in that car, and he's representing the interests of his team and his customer, and that is Duncan Cameron, who will not race this afternoon. So he's right to be emotional about it. It was a mistake, no doubt about that. There was no, I don't think, a deliberate act involved in any part of that. He's also absolutely right. He was alongside the Porsche, and I think what we had there was Porsche got great traction off the second part of Les Combes, and I'm struggling to understand just how it was that she got such good traction that she hit the Lamborghini as hard as she did. Because that car should have been off that corner pretty much as quickly. So did Hiroshi Yamaguchi have a moment of some regard? Maybe he was just seeing cars behind and alongside and spent too much time looking back and not enough time looking forward to that moment. But no two ways about it, that was a mistake from Sarah.
Yeah. We haven't had a decision on that yet, though,
No,
have we? And the thing is, even if the 85 is penalised, even if Sarah Povey does get a penalty, that doesn't help Matt Griffin,
No, it
Duncan
doesn't.
Cameron and David
There
Perel.
is-
They're
there
out
is
of the race.
There is, of course, a principle that for the main, you penalise the action, not the consequence. Okay? It's a pretty well-established thing in law as well. You penalise the action. And that remains to be seen what kind of penalty comes the way, if any, for the Iron Dames. But yet another chapter in what's an extraordinary run of amazing stories of good, bad and indifference with the team that puts the pink cars on the tracks of Europe and the world. It's 2 hours and 50 minutes to go, Johnny. We are now under safety car. Sebastian Alvarez leads Johnny Edgar by 0.6 of a second. 38 seconds, by the way, on pit road. They effectively ran down pit road, topped it up,
Yeah.
and lost nothing.
A drive-through takes, I think, about 21 seconds.
Well, he's
here.
lost nothing.
No, but what I'm trying to work out is how long was it stopped in the pits having fuel? It's going to be about, 17, call it 15 seconds.
Yeah.
So he's had a 15-second blast of fuel, which will have brimmed the tank. And now they're in a great position for this next segment of the race. It might be able to do the next 40 minutes, for instance. That's a nice message to read. Start of the race, no further action necessary.
There you go.
Because it was clean and everybody ran through the grid hatchings. They weren't out of order as they crossed the start line.
One other car, by the way, did exactly the same as AR by TF, and that is, by the look of it, Lorenzo Fluxa in the 37 car, currently sitting in 13th, 12th in LMP2, because the Brown leader, John Falb, who is under investigation, by the way, is ahead. They've had a 38-second pit stop as well, so they've done exactly the same thing. To explain what I'm talking about here, we were under virtual safety car. The cars are there at 80 kilometres an hour. The difference is, I think the line into pit lane and through pit lane and out of pit lane is slightly quicker.
Yeah.
So he's not lost that much time by taking that route. He's down at 6 kilometres an hour on pit lane, so he's going slightly slower. He stopped for what we think is about 17 seconds of fuel. He's got a full fuel tank, and none of the other cars around him have done so, and he hasn't lost a position on track.
But the other thing is, once he'd come into pit lane, within a few seconds, we changed from virtual safety car to safety car, so that's even more time that effectively that car's gained, because the safety car doesn't go around it at 80 kilometres per hour. So they've kept their position, but they do now have lots more fuel than their nearest rivals, and this could be the point in the year where the number 14's luck, or management, if you like, strategic calls, start to really go in its favour. 6 laps in for this particular stint. No, there'll be fewer than that actually for Johnny Edgar. But he stayed at the wheel. They're having to burn the hour that Johnny needed to do. Well, he has done that now because he started the car. But keeping him in for the time being, you're losing nothing in that regard because we're under safety car. And Edgar's a very fast silver driver anyway. But Robert Kubica will be waiting in the wings for the middle stint, possibly plural stints, with Louis Delatraz still to come, who was the qualification star yesterday afternoon. Sebastian Alvarez, though, as the championship leader in the number 43 car, is still out front on lap 24. We're still under safety car, although it's going to come in this lap because the pass around has again been completed, so the field has been reset, and any cars caught in the wrong place now waved by, which will make sure that the battling within LMGT3, in LMP3 and in LMP2 Pro-Am is as fair as possible. And Sebastian Alvarez can now dictate when he gets going again. The safety car drivers have shot off into the distance, making a beeline for the pit road. When does Alvarez, though, start to push like crazy? Still not yet. And they're heading into Blanchimont through Curve Paul Frere, weaving from left to right, still weaving from left to right, even though the green flag is now being displayed on the start-finish line. Listen in the background, I think Alvarez is gone.
Yep, under control of Sebastian Alvarez.
Although down back at Grid Motorsport by TF, this car does not know that the race has begun again because everyone is still touring their way through Blanchimont. Now the pace is being picked up, but no, Alvarez still hasn't gone yet and is still weaving rather erratically, perhaps to throw Johnny Edgar off the scent, who's given up the weaving process and is waiting now for any indication of the Mexican driver ahead of him getting going. He will do now through the second element of the bus-stop chicane, out of turn 19. Oh, there's a spin further back on the restart. Was that a P2 car? I think it was, yeah. It's the Duquesne car, number 30, that is stranded in the middle of the road. And that is Jean-Baptiste Simonauer, who either got hit or tried to give it too much right foot on coolish tyres. Either way, the car has rotated and has potentially stalled right in the middle of the track.
But he certainly can't rejoin with the rest of the field thundering towards him through the bus stop.
Yellows breed yellows is the old phrase from American racing, and it can happen here in Europe as well. Alvarez, Edgar, Kaiser and Cullen, we're all still racing at the moment. Double waved yellows at turn 19, but this part of the track is entirely unaffected. Lap 26, and Edgar, we think, in the white and red car, as Simonauer's moving again, but the white and red car, so we don't need to go into another full course yellow, for instance, but how did he end up there? There's a car right behind him.
He's hit twice from the rear
by
I think, I'm not going to identify that without being absolutely sure.
Is it not the Vector Sport car? It's the right colours for number 10. Happened before that, those group of cars worked their way through, though. No, Vector are fourth, so it can't possibly be them.
I thought it might have been a Nielsen car.
OK.
But
like to...
I'm not confirming that.
No, but we have to kind of offer a guesstimate, if you like. I've already sent the wrong car, so feel free to do the same.
Car 27 and 30 at turn 19. That is indeed Nielsen Racing's David Harmar Hansen.
I knew you would be right, and I incorrect. Sorry, everyone at Vector. I love your team, I promise. And Ryan Cullen's done a splendid job to this point, and he was entirely unaffected or uninvolved with that incident at the restart. He's in fourth, but now under pressure from a driver change behind in 22. Ben Handley got out of that car at the pit stop, and Philip Ugran got at the wheel in number 22. Marcus Sieber in the Edex Sport number 28 is in 6th position. And then it's Bijoy Garg and Jonas Reed in 7th and 8th places. But totally together in this fight for 3rd overall. Matthias Kaiser's done really well to come back from that spin when he was cleaned out in the incident that involved John Hartshorn and Ryan Cullen. Up in 3rd place now, and clearly that car's in pretty good shape despite the damage it carries.
Remarkably, by the way, after all of that, Sarah Bovey's still in 2nd place at this point. And there's trouble for the race leader. Is she still in 2nd place? Or has that changed as well? So didn't see what happened there with Hiroshi Yamaguchi, but he was leaving La Source very slowly indeed. He's had a moment, I think, under braking. And there's trouble there for the 22.
That's Philip Ugran, as mentioned, and Ugran rotating as Ryan Cullen is trying a move here on Matthias Kaiser. And they have been totally together for the whole of this opening stint. Remember, it was these two cars involved in the John Hartshorn crash. And that happened on the exit of Puon. But Hamaguchi, put on the grass by a prototype. And that's once round, in fact, didn't fall behind Sarah Bovey. She's only coming over the finish line now to begin her lap. Well, but she probably did get through.
We have yellow flags at T4. We have
in fact, Derek de Boer now leads LMGT3. So Sarah's dropped positions as well.
Yeah, so there's all sorts of shenanigans going on here. There was contact between the Vector Sport car and the Algarve Pro car. Then we had the issue for Philip Ugran.
And this is what happened to Sarah Bovey.
Oh dear me.
She's out now. She's out of the race now. That's totally broken the steering. And Hiroshi Hamaguchi's probably out as well.
He was in trouble.
We have yellows from T1 all the way up to the top.
So, remember, limping back, but yeah, has hit the rector cell barrier there on the run-up Radion on the exit of Eau Rouge. But you think after that spin, he hadn't got back up to full speed?
He definitely wasn't up to full speed.
Well, no, but I think that's the advantage that you get of just ordinarily coming out of La Source. That was purely momentum. I don't think he had a problem. Remember, he had virtually stopped at La Source and was accelerating away from that incident, whereas Sarah Bovey had the full wind behind her, but had chosen then to go to the outside line. Meanwhile, that's another car off. Championship leaders. Yep, car 11's in the gravel at Les Combes now as well. And all of a sudden, this race has spiraled out of control, it feels like. I'm getting memories again of the Michelin Le Mans Cup from yesterday afternoon.
Trying to move the 11. Axel Jeffries looking as you would, knowing you're not going to get a drive today.
Where is Sarah Bovey? Did she get through Sector 2? I can't imagine so with the steering broken.
In Sector 2.
Okay.
Slowly.
Well, she got to the end of the Camel Straight then, amazingly. But that steering is totally bent. Look at the amount of gravel, again, pouring out onto the track at Les Combes from the number 11 car of Matthew Bell. And he slipped back to 10th position. And possibly in anticipation of another caution period, although we're not under full course yellow yet, but LMP2s are pitting, including Giorgio Roda and Rodrigo Sales. That's early compared to the amount of fuel they will have burned, but they are possibly preempting. Yeah, here we go.
Under safety car. Leader, slow down. We are under safety car.
So that's a mega call from people like 77 Proton Competition and the 29 Richard Mille by TDS LMP2. Yep. They've done a full pit stop. They've done driver changes there as well. So René Binder now drives 77, and Gregoire Sausset is in the 29 Richard Mille car.
Bear right and stop. I'll tell you when you start moving. Leader, please slow down. We are under safety car. We need to group everyone up so that we can work clean and remove what needs to be removed.
So this is going to be for recovery of the 63, and I think a significant clear up of gravel. Duquesne have been in and out. Rasmus Lind out the wheel of the number 30 car. Most of the LMP2 Pro-Am field, because the field was so closely matched, after the safety car now dropped behind the LMP3 cars, but are now fully fueled.
Yes. Yeah, so it was already condensed, wasn't it? Because we weren't long out of the previous safety car period, so there won't be too much resetting of the field.
No.
If this was an IMSA race, they wouldn't do a pass around because the previous safety car was so close to this one. But it remains to be seen what the decision is going to be. Of course, there are some cars that have now pitted, mainly in LMP2 Pro-Am, so that could change whether a pass around is needed or not. Jean-Baptiste Simonauer, who you'll remember spun at the restart, although he was given a helping hand.
Twice.
Yeah, the initial contact didn't spin the car, but the second one did, because he was trying to go through the corner at turn 19. Not great when you get hit when you're trying to go through a 90-degree left-hander. So that's still being investigated. We didn't get a decision on that, I don't think, yet.
85, by the way, Sarah Bovey has not reappeared out of Sector 2, I don't think.
I agree, because now their message or the letter next to her name is stopped, and then we get sector times up until this point, so we can't identify precisely where that car is, but it hasn't yet reached the end of Sector 2. Nor has the 30 car, who is Jean-Baptiste Simonauer. He's there now, though, so catching up with the safety car.
On his way out the pits.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've actually... And now, all of a sudden, everyone finding the safety car speed, so there's a lot of overlapping, but thankfully nobody running off the road needing to avoid. That's the problem, is you crest the rise at Raidillon and find that traffic is going almost at walking speed when you'd been hustling along to catch up with this train. So there was a bit of confusion there coming out of Eau Rouge Raidillon, but no contact, I don't think. And that's the sorry side of Hiroshi Hamaguchi's Lamborghini that had gone into a spin. Now, which of the prototypes was involved with him at turn 1? I don't think we've got to the bottom of that yet. And as a result, he was going down into Eau Rouge and Raidillon much, much slower than Sarah Bovey. She chose to go to the outside line to try and take the race lead, but the two came together, and it's broken the steering on Sarah Bovey's car. It put the Lamborghini into the tyre, plastic barriers rather, before the tyre wall, and sadly, Hamaguchi is out of the race.
Yeah.
They are the championship leaders, we should not forget as well, so this is going to change the complexion of the ELMS standings coming away from Spa.
So despair at Iron Links. They're not going to be very happy with that whatsoever. And of course, whilst the Porsche is run by Proton here, it's a fellow squad and their other endeavours. So circuit goes quiet again. Safety car has picked up pretty much the entire field at the moment, with the exception of the Duquesne team car that is catching the train. There is some reordering of the crash barrier up at Raidillon, and the flatbed is there ready to collect the 63 car. So somewhat, how could I put it, interrupted for us at Spa-Francorchamps so far, Johnny Palmer. Doesn't get away from the fact there's been some great driving at the front of this race in LMP2. Still Sebastian Alvarez with Johnny Edgar behind. Ryan Cullen up to third. We saw that move with Matt Kaiser. Marcus Siebert, Friedeck Sport, up in fifth place now ahead of Bijou Garg. LMP2 Pro-Am with a massive lead at the moment, although that might balance back out in due course. The 83 car of Francois Perrodo. There is Hiroshi Hamaguchi making his way to the intervention car. He'll be taken, I'm sure, to the medical centre for a quick checkup. That's what the regulations say. Let's look again here, Johnny. Didn't have the momentum.
No, but I still need to know why the Lambo was on the grass at the first corner. Who was involved there, and was in fact Hamaguchi's line compromised? So many times in the past, we've seen a prototype overtake a GT car into turn one, then brake at the point that they can, and the GT can't stop in time. So I wonder whether there may be a penalty going to the prototype that effectively caused all of that. That's the 11 car of Richard Bell off the road as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see that from the rear.
There's no rear-facing. I don't think there's a rear-facing camera on Matthew Bell's car, but yeah, I know what you're saying. I'd like to see all of these incidents so far today from a variety of angles.
I'd like to understand whether or not that Lamborghini was carrying damage.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The point I'm trying to make here is it didn't look, it absolutely was not up to full racing speed at that point, and that seemed to surprise Bovey.
Yeah, but Sarah will have seen what happened. Will have seen the Lamborghini spinning ahead of her, so will have known that Hamaguchi's speed was compromised and maybe thought, I've got to overtake here.
Yeah.
Rather than wait for the Camel Straight.
But I think different. I think she would have been waiting to try to get the drag down the Camel Straight. Look, at the end of the day, there are few people who are going to know more about the risks at Spa than a Belgian driver. She knows that's a place that it's tricky to overtake. You can do it, but it's tricky to overtake. I think she was looking to place herself to be ready to get over the crest and on the power down the Camel Straight. What I don't know from what we've seen is whether or not Hiroshi Hamaguchi was not just slightly hampered in terms of his pace, but perhaps his handling as well.
Yeah. Well, it was a big old spin on the grass on the approach to La Source, and I still want you to basically wind back your own feed of our coverage to find out precisely which of the... I think it was a P3 car that was side by side with Hamaguchi, and that was, in a sense, the whole moment that then led up to the two GT3 cars clashing with one another. But yes, there may be two layers to why Hiroshi was so slow into Eau Rouge. Lack of momentum, yes.
P2 car.
It was a...
P2 car.
Just wind that back again.
I'm trying to find the exact moment. It's definitely a P2 car.
All right. We've got various screens on the go here, folks, in an effort to try and bring you a vaguely professional broadcast. But there's a lot going on. We're spinning a lot of plates here. Yeah, that does appear to be an Oreca.
A light-coloured Oreca.
That is alongside the Lamborghini.
And way over, the other thing is, way over to the right, the left-hand side.
Well, my fear is that the LMP2 car's overtaken Hamaguchi and then slammed on the brakes, and Hamaguchi has nowhere to go because a GT car can't brake as readily as a P2. We've seen that many times before in WEC races as well, but it's tricky to identify that car because it all happened in a flash on the approach to La Source corner. And as a consequence, Hamaguchi's then, from a standing start, having to go down to Eau Rouge and try and be as quick as possible versus Sarah Bovey. But Bovey tries the overtake around the outside. There's a clash, and it effectively puts both cars out on the spot. I'm just wondering, is that the... Okay, might be either the Nielsen car or the Cool Racing colours potentially, or is it the wrong grey? It's the wrong shade of grey.
I think it might have been the white-fronted Nielsen 24. It's that angle. It's that the line coming through.
What I've just spotted there is that it feels like Hamaguchi doesn't go through or can't turn right enough.
That's exactly what I was talking about. Has he got a handling problem? Was the car going where it actually shouldn't have gone? And was he in full control of that car at that moment?
Well, it was almost as if he had got a steering problem.
That was exactly the point I was trying to make.
Just ask me to express it next time, and I can do it a lot clearer. The 12 WTM car is the one that's clashed with Matthew Bell. I don't know whether we ever said that, but Wochenspiegel Team Monschau, Rinaldi car, and the 11. So was that a race for the class lead at the time? Yes. 12 and 11. And the 12 car of Torsten Kratz, therefore, might be in the firing line for a penalty next as well. Thank you to everyone in that stop-and-go directors gallery for digging out these replays and playing them over and over and over again for us to finally get there to describe precisely what's going on. Terrific work in EVS, I think is the technical term for that, to show the replays and feed them in. Forever grateful. So Sebastian Alvarez is leading from Johnny Edgar in second and Ryan Cullen in third position. And now the decision to get the AO by TF Sport Car into pit lane to get fuel, that effect is not able to manifest itself so much now. So the extra fuel will still be useful towards the end of this stint, but is it slightly compromised because we're under safety car again?
With thanks, by the way, to Interior Pod Competition and Earl there, PR, and with thanks to Jeff Carter for chasing it down, and Steph in pit lane, we can now report what happened to Clem Novalek in the 34 car in losing the top element of that rear clip. And rather unfortunately, that was a misunderstanding in the release from the pit stop, and the car hit a pit crew member. That impact was sufficient to break that part. Now, that must have been quite some hit. I can happily tell you that that crew member is okay. So that's good news coming out of bad news. That's also, by the way, why the 34 car is under investigation for an unsafe release. So 34, having had the rear clip snapped in half, the wing element at the top with the was broken clean off in that impact. But that crew member is basically okay and is back with the team in the garage. So thank you all for letting us keeping us up to date on that. And the good news is that whilst I'm sure that hurt a lot, crew member is basically okay.
Not nice to witness, and there is somebody in the grandstand opposite the pit lane that I think caught it on film. So we've watched that, and it's not a pretty sight, but amazing to hear that the mechanic is absolutely fine.
He's coming in at the end of this lap. Safety car lights off. He's coming in at the end of this lap.
That is the best possible news we can hear. A freak incident, which can sometimes happen in the pit lane. As I hear a squeal of tyres, that's a safety car, I think, picking up speed. So it wasn't somebody falling off the road again.
Just on it.
Absolutely on it. Well, yesterday morning, you and I were mesmerised by both safety cars doing their exploratory laps.
Looking for where the grip is.
One of them was like 45 degrees to the idea angle of travel, and it was superb. A drift show from the ELMS safety car drivers, and it was great to see.
It was indeed.
Right then, another restart. Let's see whether we can get a bit further into this green flag period.
Safety car is in the pits. Track is now green. No overtaking before the line. No overtaking before the line.
Out of the double right-hander at Campus and Curve Paul Frere, and up towards Blanchimont corner we go. And this time Alvarez has gone a lot earlier than before, and Johnny Edgar needed to react. He has reacted. The gap back to Ryan Cullen is slightly more significant, and Edgar much later on the brakes, it appeared, versus Alvarez, but he of course can't overtake until they've crossed this line. They're greeted by 3 green lights, and let's assume we can get to the end of this stint on this amount of fuel and see how far we can go. But Edgar could potentially go further than anybody else.
I'm going to correct myself now on the screens. It was the number 47 Cool Racing car of Carl Bennett. You were right, Johnny. That hit Hiroshi Hamaguchi at turn 1, under investigation for causing a collision. So was that the initial cause, what then transpired at, well, we'd only know by speaking to Hiroshi Hamaguchi, and I'm sure if he makes his way back that Steph Wentworth will get with the Japanese driver, who's very eloquent post-qualifying. It would be good to hear his perspective on that.
Oh, another spin, and that is the 2 cars off, and it's the 29 and the 50 Formula Racing car. 29 had been spending a long time in the lead of this race, Gregoire Sauzet. And where is that on the track?
It's a Radion again.
It's Eau Rouge Radion again. So the 2 maybe have tangled and gone straight on in a very similar situation to the Sarah Bovey Hiroshi Hamaguchi clash. And because they're off the road in a very vulnerable spot, It might be that we have to go into a full course yellow as well. That's been a big crash.
That's going to be a safety car
for
again.
the 50 car, and Johnny Lawson, who is able to get out just about. And also off in a similar fashion is the 34 car, totally sideways.
How did he hold that?
But I wondered whether, as the camera panned over there, we might have missed this incident. No, but we've got that as well. And Lawson spinning round and round, and I think this hit into the tyre wall is going to be, well, not too bad. The more substantial contact was car to car.
It already happened through a rouge.
And it's a virtual safety car that will be happening in the next 5 seconds, and that will mean we're into another safety car at the end of this.
No,
Can the 29 car drive away? No, it can't. It's going to attempt to, Gregoire Sauce, but the problem is the rear right wheel is hopping up and down by a couple of foot.
I think at that point he didn't realise the damage that had been done to the rear. So both those cars are done, I'm afraid. This is extraordinary, Johnny.
It is one of those natural things in motor racing where, because we're not getting into a rhythm, it just throws us back into a caution period, because naturally, after a safety car...
Please be advised, we have an incident at T3 drivers left. I will need to cross the track with a service van. We are under virtual safety car, so I'm deploying the van on track. Please be advised.
Naturally under a safety car, I was going to say that it takes a few laps for everyone to untangle themselves, but that was into Lufagna, involving 2 LMP2s and a GT car, the car guy Ferrari, along with Algarve Pro.
Yeah, we couldn't see which of the 2 Algarve Pro cars it was, and a United car involved there as well.
Well, that felt like it was a battle on track for position, but there isn't a Nielsen car with a United anymore. It could have been, well, no, it might have been, was it Richard Bradley and Andy Merrick? 4th and 5th in LMP2 Pro-Am. We'll have to see that again to know for sure. But I don't like seeing all of these very badly damaged cars, and Johnny Lawson looked very ginger indeed, walking away from the incident in car 50.
It has to have been Richard Bradley and Andy Merrick.
Okay.
Because they are together on track.
The spin for Clement Novalak.
Wow.
And he's almost beyond 90 degrees there to the direction of travel. That's where the dorsal fin is so important, because in the old days, it might have been that car actually took off if the air got underneath it. But that big fin across the back of the engine, above the engine, does an amazing job now.
Well, I mean, there you go. That right there is a great example of that work having paid dividends. That car could have rolled in that situation, dug in and rolled, but reduction of the air pressure through the gaps above the wheels, and then that dorsal fin that is there to basically raise the speed at which the car will take off. That's what it does. The easiest way I can give you to explain what that does. It's about stopping it from lifting off, but that was destruction testing of a set of Goodyears right there.
Yes.
Well, I can't recall a European Le Mans Series race where we've had this level of attrition, Johnny. And certainly not this early in the race. We're not even halfway.
Well, that is the concern about how desperate everybody is to get overtakes done, to muscle their way through the order when we have so many more stints still to do yet. And it shouldn't be everything on the table in hour 2 of a 4-hour race, but that's how it feels, and that's how maybe the European Le Mans Series is considered these days. It is so competitive out there. And the overtake that you might be able to pull off at a restart could be so crucial to your finishing position in many hours' time. But the 29 is out of the race, and this was a very, very strong car, qualified expertly yesterday by Rodrigo Sales. Gregoire Sauce, only a very short time with him behind the wheel, and we're not going to see Matthias Besch at all.
We've lost almost half our GT3 entry so far. We've lost JMW Motorsport. That was the incident early on with John Hartshorn and the clash with the Vector Sport car. Matt Griffin, we heard from earlier. That car retired in the pits after damage with the earlier incident with Sarah Bovey and Hiroshi Yamaguchi. Hiroshi Yamaguchi, we saw that incident just a moment ago. That is the clash with the Orica at La Source, and then the second clash on that same lap with Sarah Bovey that finally put the sword to his efforts. That's also accounted for. Sarah Bovey's Iron Damon's Porsche, and now Johnny Lawson with the incident currently underway with the Richard Mille by TDS car. What an afternoon.
But Racing Spirit of Le Mans, don't want to speak too soon, but their Aston Martin is in front at the moment, ahead of Charlie Samani's AF Corsa Ferrari number 51. And Martin Berry makes it 2 Astons in the top 3 as things stand. ELMS recovery crew now on the scene to pick up what is left of car 29. And the balancing points, the pickup points, have been positioned in a perfect place so that that car can be lifted effortlessly onto a flatbed. They'll have to do the same as well for Ferrari number 50. But yes, of the top few on the grid, 63 that took pole position in LMGT3 no longer in the race. The 50 car that was second no longer in the race. The 97 Aston Martin does still circulate, as does the 57 Ferrari for now Esteban Masson. Masson taking over from Takeshi Kimura. There are other pit stops allowed to happen because this is a virtual safety car, so the pit lane remaining open, and the good time to do a pit stop should you need fuel. Also some driver changes taking place for LMP2. Well, yeah, that needed to be happening sooner rather than later, because we've got to still do 2 driver stints of at least an hour for most of the LMP2 cars. Some of them have already done their driver change, but now that AO are pitting at the same time as everybody else, that's their advantage, that idea to fuel the car gone, because everyone's going to be on a level playing field again. I'm sure Johnny Edgar got out of his number 14 car during that pit stop. We'll wait to see whether it's Robert Kubica, or it is Robert Kubica, I was about to say, or Louis Delatraz getting on board, but Kubica would have been my guess, and that is the case. Also, the 22 car of United Autosports, called as the race leader currently, and Philippe Ugran was already in that car. He'd taken over from Ben Handley at the end of a double stint from Ben at the start of the race. So United Autosport, number 10, leading actually the Torsten Kratz WTM by Rinaldi Racing car. We've got 5 recovery vehicles, possibly more than that, all positioned now at Raidillon. So it's going to take a bit of time for all of those cars to drive away and make the situation clear again. It's actually 6 intervention vehicles there, with spare plastic barriers about to be installed as well. But Ugran leads, second place overall, an LMP3 car. Kubica slotted in behind Torsten Kratz to be second of the LMP2s, and then 2 more LMP3s, Julien Gerby and Alexander Bukantsov, as high as 4th and 5th overall. And those cars, even had we stayed green, will probably not need to pit again for 20-odd minutes or so.
So yeah, the fueling advantage, there will still be an advantage in terms of time for AO by TF, but we're now at the end of driver time for Johnny Edgar. Oh, that was close. Got away. This is a lovely time to sit track, lovely weather to sit trackside. Incident between Hamaguchi and Bovey at turn 3, under investigation, causing a collision. No surprise at all about that.
Yep.
And what I would say is that the stewards, because it will be the stewards, not race control, will have a significant from the lead.
And after the craziness that happened all around him, he's kept his head, brought the car in from the lead, handed it over to Casper Stevenson, and Racing Spirit of Le Mans are in a wonderful position now. Not helped really by this safety car, because all of the GT3s, as will be the case with all the other categories, are going to be concertinaed up.
Well, it's 4 of the top 6 cars, I think, in the current point standings in LMGT3 are out of the race.
Yeah. I know.
Before halfway.
And we were really looking forward to good fights with many, many cars all the way through the 4 hours. Sometimes a track decides that there are too many cars in the race, in effect. I've been to races in the past before with something like 100 entries, and it just doesn't work. 40-odd cars, you would have thought that would be okay around Spa, but clearly not today. As we head to the pit lane now to catch up with Steph Wentworth.
I am in the Algarve Pro Racing Garage and joined by Matthias Kaiser of the number 25. Great stint from you. It was difficult at the very beginning. You had that incident where you were hit. Were you carrying any damage? Can you let us know what you were feeling in the car?
Yeah, so overall I think there's quite a bit of damage to the car. I think the team did a mega job in the strategy to keep us in the race in the position we still are. I had a lot of vibrations from the tires after that incident. I think I'm lucky that I didn't hit the wall, and I'm lucky that it didn't cause race-ending damage, but still there's a lot of damage. The balance of the car changed a lot. I also feel like we're lacking a bit of top speed now, but the race is still long. A lot can happen, as we see. There is a lot of incidents, so we try to make the best out of what we can still.
Yeah, so is it more just a race of kind of sticking it out to the end because you don't know what's going to happen with the other drivers?
Yeah, I think at this point for us it is a little bit trying to maximize what we can still get out of the race. I mean, we're still in a very good position, which kind of is surprising, but the car was very difficult to drive after that contact with the GT car. So we try to get the best out of it, and yeah, race ain't over before it is over.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Super guy, Matt Kaiser. Clearly enjoyed his stint apart from that moment. And of course, this is the championship defending squad, the 25 crew.
Yeah,
Safety car has now been deployed, by the way, Johnny.
Yeah, which was automatically going to happen at the end of the virtual safety car. So VSC leads to SC as per the regulations. Depends how long this is going to stay out for, though, and whether, again, there's redress of the field necessary. Philipp Ugran leading from Torsten Kratz, so there's definitely some jumbling of the order there, because I mean, 3 of the top 5 positions overall are LMP3 cars. You wouldn't have expected that after an hour and 45 minutes worth of racing. Tractor directly in front of our camera at turn 1, probably doing some track sweeping yet again.
I would say, though, that the LMP3s have only made 1 stop so far.
Yeah.
So, and that has been a long stop. We'll explain that as we get through to it. But of course, because that was done in a virtual safety car, they have all burned one of the 2 time stops they must do. They can do effectively. You need 3 stops. It's our race, and it's generally speaking, it's going to be 1. It's going to be 2 time stops and 1 rather speedier one. I just said 6-hour race, didn't I?
That's fine.
It's
one of the minor mistakes we might make today. However, you haven't spotted the time that Torsten Kratz did in the pit lane. We need a minute and 45 from him. 44. And he's done a minute and 44, and I bet something like 0.9 of a second, but it's not a minute and 45.
Dear.
That does not count as one of their longer stops. You have to do 2 1 minute and 45 seconds pit lane stops, pit stops in the race. Your 3rd stop, and it doesn't have to be the 3rd and final stop, but it has to be a 3rd stop at some stage, can be as quick as you like, simply because you can't do a 4-hour race without stopping at least 3 times in an LMP3 car. But they've tried to pull off a blinder there, and it's just fallen the wrong side according to our timing information. Certainly the case goes correctly with Julien Gerby, who's done, how long did that car stay in the pit lane? 1 minute and 48, so that's absolutely fine. And Alexander Bukatsov, bang on the money at 1 minute 45 in the 88 Inter Europol competition car. But WTM by Rinaldi effectively will have to still do 2 more stops that are a minute and 45 seconds. And that could be very, very damaging indeed to car number 12, which is at the moment neatly placed in 2nd overall. Got to get those right, and to be honest, it might pay you to be 3 seconds slower than trying to be split seconds on the money, 1 minute 45. onward we go in LMP2 Pro-Am as well. At this stage, Alessio Rivera appears to have a very good advantage in number 83 over Colin Noble's Nielsen Racing number 24, which is second in category, but there are 2, 4, 5 cars between the two leaders in LMP2 Pro-Am. Some of that, again, might be corrected in the wave-by system, the pass-around. Because the difference between the LMP3s that are right up there and other wave buys, they won't be moved because they are legitimately second, fourth and fifth. That's a fight for position.
Oh, yeah.
So they won't be correcting of the order as you might get in an IMSA race, for example.
No, indeed. So we've effectively burned bronze time in the LMP classes. But bronze drivers still, of course, aboard the LMP3s until they stop. They've been fuel saving like crazy. Because ultimately, that will pay off in their final stops.
Yes.
They won't need to put quite as much fuel in the car.
From a bronze perspective in LMGT3, again, the time is done. They only needed to do 90 minutes.
Yes.
And we're at 1 hour and 50 now. So
no bronze drivers left.
Have they all got
cars?
out?
Yes, they have.
Johnny Lawson is the exception, but of course that car's now out of the race anyway. It's not being shown as stopped, but it is stopped. It's on a flatbed.
Okay, team managers, let's look at the monitors to see if you're eligible for pass-arounds, because we will be working on them again on the next lap.
The use of the word again there, rather stressed by Eduardo Freitas. I think deliberately so.
Good to see a shot of this train so we can see who is going to get that pass around.
So Ugran, the first car behind the safety car. Then you got Torsten Kratz and Robert Kubica, for whatever reason, has not quite closed the gap. Kubica must be a few cars back in the train, maybe. But a reminder that if you're in some of the slower categories, not in LMP2, and you are trapped between the safety car in front of you and your class leader behind you, then you will be allowed past to make up something like 9/10 of the lap that otherwise you would have lost. And that will make the fight in those subcategories of LMP2 Pro-Am, of LMP3 and of LMGT3 as even as possible, as fair as possible, until we get to the finish at 3:30 this afternoon, which still feels like a very long way off, purely because this opening couple of hours has not gleaned a huge amount of racing.
I'm not convinced we've got a lot to pass around to do here.
I think that's right. Most of it will happen on the Kemmel Straight. It's the safest place to do it.
Car's backing up there at the moment.
Yeah, that's happened before.
It's a touching scene there in the Sport Garage.
Isn't it just?
Yeah.
A match made in heaven.
He probably needed burping.
Well, you've got to make your own entertainment this afternoon with the lack of racing, sadly. But we will get going again very shortly, and it remains to be seen whether we're going to have more pit stops, because if you didn't get in before the safety car period, then you're locked out again of pit lane for the first 3 laps of this safety car.
Well, and the GT3 side, the LMGT3 side, is pretty sad this first couple of hours. Don't like to see damaged cars and irritated, annoyed drivers after multiple incidents with this. What this is likely to do, though, is to throw the championship up in the air. The championship leaders are out of this race. Just looking again at the Iron Lynx Lamborghini led the way from the Racing Spirit of one Aston Martin, which leads the race. Could this be a defining moment for them? They came into this race, by the way, with no race win, but a point ahead of the Iron Dames. They're out. 4th place, 2 points behind the 2nd place car, Spirit of Race. They're out. 5 points further back and still in this race, GR Racing. They currently run in 5th place. Formula Racing, right there, 6th place before we got into this race. They're out of the race. And then Grid Motorsport by TF and the Manu Collard, Charlie Samani AF Corsa car, 7th and 8th, and would do really well with a bundle of points. Little pop there, good to see.
Fast asleep.
Absolutely.
Wake me up when the racing starts.
It's significantly calmer than our puppy at home. Sorry, Trudy. More energy than an LMP1 hybrid, that thing. And deploys it in much the same fashion.
Through its front legs?
All four.
All four, of course.
All four.
We're still waiting for the pass around to be completed, so we're not going to get racing again at the end of this lap, but it might be the next time around. The indication to those circulating that the safety car will be coming in is generally done towards the end of the second sector. And Philippe Ugran this time will need to dictate the pace, and the nice thing for him is that there is that LMP3 car of Torsten Kratz in behind, so Kratz won't be anywhere near as fast as Robert Kubica, and Kubica's not allowed to overtake the WTM by Rinaldi car until they cross the line. So that could be crucial for Philippe Ugran's getaway. The Romanian driver who's the silver element in the lineup for car 22 this year. It's 2 golds, as in Ben Hanley and Marino Sato, together with Philippe. And they probably would have started with Ugran had they been given free choice, but because the 22 car caused a red flag yesterday, they had to start from the back of the LMP2s and with Ben Hanley as the starting driver. So their hands have been tied up until this point. But to be in front at half distance, they would have taken your hand off for that as an offer at the start of the race, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Closing in on halfway. It's been incident filled. Sadly for everyone tuning in, and thanks for sticking with us. There's not been a whole lot of green flag racing, but you can see from the body language of these cars, they're keen to get at it as quickly as they can. And there will be a lot of teams here looking to take advantage of this rather extraordinary race to perhaps relaunch their seasons. There are points available here. So behind the safety car, United Motorsports 22 leads the race. There was, by the way, I don't think any requirement for wave-by.
Okay.
Safety car is coming in this lap.
Safety car lights out, safety car in this lap, safety car in at the end of this lap.
The number 14 car, I think, is third in the queue. I think we are in line astern in race order, more or less, certainly for the first group of cars. There is the Porsche safety car pulling away from the field. Philippe Ugran will control the field. Mighty gap as he backs the field up.
Where's everybody gone?
Yeah.
There are cars in this race, folks, although we are significantly down on the number that we started with. And here's Philippe Ugran.
Yeah, there is the AO by TF car, third.
He's gone. Look at the tram lines that he's just left from those rear tyres. So all of a sudden he goes. Now Torsten Kratz tries to stick with him, but Robert Kubica's caught entirely napping. And I said about Kubica not being able to overtake Kratz before the line, he wouldn't have been able to do it anyway, because he's nowhere near close enough.
Absolutely. He's played a blinder there, hasn't he? Now he's caught him, and from this point forward, the Polish driver's pace is going to be cramped. Trying to get the right launch, tries to get the right moment to get the power down, but still, there goes Ugran across the line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds before we can get to the stage that Robert Kubica can clear the number 12 car.
And down the inside of the Inter-Europol competition car tries to go Ritoma Miata in the Cool Racing 37. And that was on Vlad Lomko. Lomko also needed to clear his teammate in the LMP3 Inter-Europol competition car. That's Bukantsov, and Lomko did do that, and plenty more now nipping by Bukantsov through Eau Rouge Radion.
Yep, that's the number 83 car alongside the unlinked Proton car. There was almost side-by-side contact. 3, maybe 4 cars trying to get that sorted out.
Also trying to thread his way through was Fabio Scherer in the United number 23. He's the other side of the second Cool Racing car, which is 47, and that's Fred Vesti at the wheel of the Cool car, but he has allowed Fabio Scherer through. Having to be wary of the number 8 car on the high line at Bruxelles, which is a P3 car from Virage.
And that's part of the problem, isn't it? We've got such a tight-knit group of prototype cars. You're sort of assuming the car in that group has got equal pace to you, and if all of a sudden it's an LMP3 car with substantially less grip or substantially less grunt, you could very easily be caught out.
And you don't necessarily know they're there, as you say, until the cars around you clear. By then it might be a bit too late. But yes, in order to read the situation, maybe it's the case that some engineers are having to play the role of spotters around here to say, you know, you've got an LMP3 car in the gaggle of LMP2s that you're trying to battle with as well, to give everybody ample warning. There was Torsten Kratz allowing a few more LMP2 cars through on the exit of Campus Corner. Torsten Kratz continues to lead the LMP2 category in the WTM car, the white and red and black. And then it's Team Virage's Julien Gerby, who did a splendid job in staying out of the way as much as possible, but also keeping the pace up.
But as you said a little earlier, Torsten Kratz and the W10 Barinaldi crew got bad news coming. Were they a second short on that long stop? Effectively, that means they still have to do 2 long stops. That could cost them 40 seconds later in this race.
Yeah. Well, that won't count as a long stop, and they will have to do 2 more, therefore, whereas their rivals have done at least 1. They've only done possibly 1, and there is 1 more to come. Although, checking down the order, teams like Cool Racing, Miguel Cristobal, looks like 2 have been ticked off there already, as is the case for Matthew Bell in Euro International and Jean-Ludovic Foubert, but they've lost a considerable amount of time because, remember, Cristobal had his big spin at the top of Raidillon, over an hour ago. Matthew Bell ended up in the gravel after clashing with Torsten Kratz. That all happened at Les Combes corner. Which was the other car that I just mentioned? Jean-Ludovic Foubert, which is the 31 Racing Spirit of Le Mans car, and they're down in 8th position, in fact, no, 9th position in LMP3. So, although they've done some of the longer stops, they've not really got road position to back that up. We have ticked over the halfway marker now. So 2 hours and 2 minutes done. Philippe Augrand leading. He's the second driver to be put into car 22, and United still have Marino Sato to lean on to bring that car to the finish much later on.
Kubica closing that gap as you would expect him to do. Here by TF, looking to claim their first victory of the season. 22, 14, 43, 37, 28, the top 5. The pace all of a sudden quicker. In LMGT3, we're aboard the number 97 car, but the second here in the hands of Johnny Adam, 1.1 seconds back. Casper Stevenson in the 59 Racing Spirit Le Mans, so it's an Aston Martin 1-2. Here are the 2 leading cars. Come past us, Kayaski and Gail Julien on the way out of the pits. First of the LMP3 cars to pit for a second time.
Where's Kubica going to pull this manoeuvre off then? He's got a wonderful run through Eau Rouge. Onto the Kemmel Straight they go, and certainly defending initially is Philippe Augrand. Then he puts the car in the middle of the road. Is it going to be around the outside from the Polish driver? That is absolutely terrific from Robert Kubica to take the race lead. He kept the car totally within the confines of the circuit, and back to the front goes AO by TF.
Great stuff. Was there minor contact here? No, don't think there was. I think it was clean. I think it was clean.
If there was, Kubica was marginally ahead anyway, and I think that was then his corner to defend, if you like. And Augrand may have forced the issue.
Now this is an interesting moment. What pace has Robert Kubica got now? He's got an empty track in front of him. Next car ahead of him is coming through turn 12 now. Next car ahead of him is at Raidillon.
Yep.
So now we'll see what pace they've got aboard that AO by TF car. And this is a real opportunity to gap this field.
So Torsten Kratz up against Julien Gerby. And now, after all those LMP2 cars have disappeared down the road, then at least these 2 can do battle on their own. Turning left through Speaker's Corner is Louis Rossi in the 3rd place P3 car. That's the Ultimate number 35 entry. And Alexander Matchell is a bit further back for DKR Engineering, but at least they're burning some Matchell time now. Remember, they're running bronze and silver with the absence of Belen Garcia not taking part this weekend with DKR Engineering. So in LMP3, if you run with a bronze and a silver, there's no restriction either way for a silver rated driver, no minimum or maximum, but the bronze has to do 1 hour and 45 minutes. That is different from, oh no, if you run with 2 silvers in a 3-driver lineup, still as the bronze, you have to do 1 hour and 45 minutes. So not a great deal changes for Alexander Matchell.
Well, this pair of Aston Martins at the lead of the order. You can't see from this angle as that Johnny Adam has got his mirrors full of the Kessel Racing 57 of Esteban Masson. He's right there. They're gapping Manu Collard in 4th, the 51 Ferrari. Martin Berry there, watching on. This is pro driver. There is Johnny Adam into the bus stop, where there's Masson. That's 1, 2, 3. With a couple of LMP3 cars as they start to work through their pit stop cycle. Team Virage's Julien Gerby has come to pit lane from 2nd. Of course, Louis Rossi at the moment up into 2nd place in the junior LMP order.
Cracking sight when a big heavy GT car, all the weight lurches forward onto that front axle as it is slowed dramatically for the most patient corner on the racetrack, which is La Source. You just cannot rush that because you'll risk spinning, you'll risk a bad exit, and a bad exit out of La Source is so costly because that will alter your top speed when you get to this bit of the circuit, the Kemmel Straight.
Absolutely. 1, 2, 3 on pit lane, number 17 from Cool Racing. Defending champions, of course, in LMP3, also away, Team Virage. The LMP3 battle should start to form here. Here's where they do have the option to choose between a long and a shorter stop. I'll check that out for you. DKR Engineering had a very short stop. Team Virage. Bernardo Pinheiro aboard the car. And we talked at the start of this race about one member of the endurance racing family that we lost very recently. We should also remember Hello Pinheiro, the chief executive. I think he was his position at Portimao, such a welcoming venue for the LMS for many years, and was lost suddenly. He's the son, the father of Bernardo. Thoughts a quarter with them. To racing though, Johnny. Track limits warning for Casper Stevenson as he tries to escape from Johnny Adam. It's pulling away quickly from Ugran, and he does that with the fastest lap of the race. It's a 2:01.487. At this point forward, remember, every progression in fastest lap time is a new race lap record for this class.
Yeah, so it's the same car that holds on to the fastest lap of the race, but Kubica goes even quicker than we've had historically at this venue in the LMP2 division in the past. So very impressive to get a lap time that is that fast this far into the race, but it's not been a conventional race, you could say, because of the stop-start nature of it. And they're more likely to encounter clearer air with the field still spaced out a fair bit, although the LMP2s are now fanning out from effectively the end of the lap at the chicane all the way back to the start of Curve Paul Frere.
That's on with Johnny Adam for 2nd place. Is there going to be space there to do it? Also noting, by the way, Vlad Lomko is catching Philippe Ugran for 2nd quickly. He's with him now, in fact. So we'll keep an eye on that battle. That is the 43-inch Europol car on the 22 United Autosports Orica. There they are. This is the battle for 2nd place. Behind that pair, also closing in, is Ritomo Miata. The pace is coming up nicely here. We finally get some sustained green flag running for this race.
Very good run again on onto the Kessel with onto the Kemmel rather, with Ugran behind. rather in front of Lomko. I'll get it right in a minute. Around the outside will go Vlad Lomko to take the position away from Filip Ugran. So Ugran led a couple of laps ago, was overtaken by Robert Kubica, and now the Russian driver Lomko closing in and getting in front for second place.
Yeah, good move there. It always looked like that was, he had a great run, didn't he, coming on to the long straight, and he got it done before the apex. Nice and clean. What can Miata now do? He's now just under 2 seconds back from Lomko. From Ugran, rather, my apologies.
Alessia Rivera is the race leader in LMP2 Pro-Am, and Rivera is one of the quickest LMP2 drivers, full stop, in this race, so not surprising to see him progressing to 8th place overall, as Johnny Adam and Esteban Masson continue their squabble, 2nd and 3rd. So the Aston in the two-tone green of Casper Stevenson is gapping Johnny Adam at the moment, because Johnny's got more than his hands full with the Masson Ferrari.
Well, actually not. He was about 2 seconds back when we went back to green. He's come, that gap's come down a little.
So are they actually working together, perhaps, to reel in the LMGT3 race leader?
85, by the way. This is going to be somewhat pointless at this stage. Drive-through penalty for causing a collision at turn 6. That is the clash with McGriffin accounted for. So that's the initial crash between the Iron Dames and the two Ferraris. 27, that is the David Herman Hansen car. Was a drive-through penalty causing the collision at turn 19. That was the collision that turned round Jean-Baptiste Simoneau at the final turn at the restart. In the Duquesne team car, so it's going to be the 27 car. Currently sits 13th, Benjamin Pedersen, by the way, ex-IndyCar driver, at the wheel of that car. In addition to the crew, we'll see Nico Pino in that squad.
Is Nico busy somewhere else this weekend, or he's just not in the team anymore?
It's done.
Okay, interesting. Sometimes that can develop through the course of the season for one reason or another. But I hope to see Nico appearing in other areas in the near future, because he's got a big talent.
Racing in WC.
Yes. I'm trying to remember whether he ever had a single-seater career, but it tends to be that when you sort of depart that and favour sports car racing, then you never really go back again, because your position in the ladder of single-seaters is kind of gone by that point, and it's very tricky to return. I'm sure in his early career, yeah, things like Formula 4.
Euro Formula Open was his last effort in.
That was 2 years ago.
It was 2 years ago, and 2 years of that F4 British Championship as well. Before that, so I did find a rich vein of form in LMP3. Now running with United Autosports as part of their McLaren effort in FIWC. A second notation that Casper Stevenson must respect track limits. He's living on borrowed time here. It is a Gap Despair. This is a spirited battle.
Well, Masson definitely had a long look to the inside at La Source, so he had a really good run out of the chicane at the end of the lap. Again, in the draft of Johnny Adams' Aston Martin, but still about a car length or so away. And in the very distance, you can see Robert Kubica as the overall race leader, not far away from catching this pack. So it's first, second, third in the LMGT3, and the first place car overall, now 4.5 seconds clear of Vlad Lomko.
By the way, it's Ritomo Miata just taking Filip Ugran for third overall. So the 37 Cool Racing car working hard to stay with Kubica and Lomko. So AA by TF lead as we're on board now in that 37 car as he gets into terms with a couple of our remaining LMGT3 cars.
And Ugran's about to be snapped up here by another car. This is the EDEC Sport of Richard de Guerres, but de Guerres can't find a way through into the first bit of Pouhon. Difficult for Ugran this, because he's got the zebra liveried Ferrari ahead of him, which is the 51 of Manu Collard. Very rapid indeed, of course, in the GT ranks, but around the outside, de Guerres on Ugran. Yeah, that was all getting a bit too close for comfort, but purely because they're having to work their way through slower LMGT3 cars that are not hanging around, rest assured, but they're never going to be as quick as a P2.
Stefan Rakelmi in the Vector Sport car is closing this pair as well. This is closing up. Ugrán's not giving this up. Looks the outside. Don't think he's got the ponies to do it there, but he's sticking with the plan. Here comes Rakelmi as well. He wants to be part of this, and he's the quicker of the three at the moment.
Partly because these two have been bottled up in amongst GT traffic.
There.
That was Ugrán to the side of Richard de Gueres. De Gueres says, well, I've got to go over to this part of the circuit because I was put there, and Stefan Rakelmi will swallow up Philippe Ugrán in one fell swoop, and maybe de Gueres as well. De Gueres thought about turning in and had to redress his line as quickly as possible. Otherwise, we would have had 3 LMP2s and a big old pile-up and a box of bits. But they're all still going, thankfully, against the grain, you might say, of this race otherwise. But that's when these guys are really in their prime. Richard de Gueres had the awareness that there was a car there. He couldn't turn in, so he had to think of other ideas.
Also closing, by the way, but from a little way further back, it's about the length of the Kemmel Straight is Ollie Caldwell in that recovering 25 car after the damage suffered with the clash with the 66, the JMW, very early in the race. Caldwell is flying as well. He wants to be part of this, so that will be a gap that is important to watch as well for Algarve Racing. He's actually in a battle at the moment with Alessio Rivera. There's you go again. This is the two cars coming into the bus stop. This is where there was the clatter to the side there. That pushed the EDEC Sport car wide. What happened here?
Grid Motorsport by TF Aston Martin in for a pit stop.
Didn't see what we were supposed to be seeing there.
Johnny Adam, well, he'd not been in the pits for quite some time, and it all seemed to go pretty well because it brought the car into second position. So there may have been a slight pause in an otherwise seamless stop, and the purple and dark blue car rejoined. Esteban Masson now, though, is a lot distant, not more distant from Johnny Adam. So these LMP2 cars, perhaps all crowding the GT3, the LMGT3 cars, has rather separated their fight in the GT division. Rakelmi looking for a way through on De Gueres, but De Gueres has got to the front of this little three-way fight.
That's changed again, hasn't it, since we last saw this group? So Rakelmi had to cede the position to De Gueres. He's still under attack from Ugrán, and look how much closer Ollie Caldwell is to this battle now. It was the length of the Kemmel Straight last time around. It's not that anymore. I think he's taken something like 3 seconds out of Ugrán on this lap. He's still got that traffic to clear, remember. That will be a bit of a pickle for him, but he looks like he's going to catch that traffic where he wants to, which is on the Kemmel Straight. Back now. There is the 25. He is going to pass at least one, maybe two, maybe all three. And I think he's gobbled up about half the length of the Kemmel Straight in a single lap.
So Ugrán's trying to hang on to the coattails of these LMP2 cars, but bear in mind that Ugrán is a silver, and he's just been overtaken by gold-rated Richard de Gueres and gold-rated Stefan Rakelmi. So purely on the consistency of lap times, they should have the measure. De Gueres and Rakelmi should have the measure on Ugrán, and so it is playing out like that.
Leads the race, by the way. Player by TF. It's 2 seconds the gap between the 14 car of Robert Kubica and the 43 of Vlad Lomko. Ritomo Miata 5.5 seconds back, and on last lap, pretty much identical lap times for all three of those drivers. EDEC Sports Richard de Gueres is then 11 seconds back, but closing, having cleared traffic on that group. Taking Stefan Rakelmi with him, beginning to drop Philippe Ugrán, who is beginning to fall into the clutches of Ollie Caldwell. LMP2 Pro-Am 8th overall. Alessio Rivera is with Ollie Caldwell in battle for 7th overall. He has a 5 overall race position gap. I'm just looking for the 7 seconds covering that gap between Alessio Rivera, Ken Bolognesi, Rennie Binder third in LMP2 Pro-Am. He's 14th, so it's DK Engineering and Proton competition. Colin Noble in that fight as well for Nielsen Racing in 15th.
Aston Martins are pretty much together now, as, well, not quite together, because an LMP2 was able to sneak through the gap there, you might have spotted. Here's the DKR car number 4 around the outside of the Ultimate machine, which is the 35.
That's
hasn't
for the
quite
lead.
got the place yet. Is it for the lead?
Yeah, because the Ultimate car has only stopped once. It stopped once in 2 hours and 20 minutes.
And that wasn't a long stop either, according to my records,
Yes,
or was it?
It was 1:45 for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that has ticked off one of those crucial stops, and they have not done, it would appear, what WTM by Rinaldi Racing did with their 1 minute and 44, running it very, very close, but not quite close enough.
Cars 85, forget that, that's out the race. 77, which is the third place car in LMP2 Pro-Am, and the leader in LMP2 Pro-Am, all will get 5 seconds added to the next pit stop, overtaking at the end of the safety car. So that would have been going back into green flag racing. So that is going to bring AF Corsa's 83 car right back into that pack.
Yeah. Yeah, so lots to still happen in this. We're trying to kind of predict what might be being planned for in the last few stints. But if you're in an LMP2 car, then we're still looking at 2.5 stints yet to get back. As now the DKR car's totally off the road, dropped a couple of tyres in the gravel, and the 35 will take the LMP3 lead back again because of that error from Alexander Matchell in car 4. And actually that incident could have been a lot worse because the speed he left the track there coming out of Blanchimont, sometimes you don't get that back and you go straight to the scene of the accident.
Indeed. But this is remarkable fuel economy from that 35 car, if that timing screen is correct. You know, we've had a lot of yellow flag, caution, safety car running.
Well, normally under green, you can do an hour per stint in an LMP3 car. So they've squeezed an extra 20 minutes out of that. And it might have been an hour and 10 and an hour and 10. That seems more feasible. How about this incident for Matchell, though, in the gravel and for quite a long number of metres?
Found his way on the wrong side of the EDEX Sport car, then just drifted wide, run out of room, basically, to retain, to keep the track. This is a battle for second. And hang on a minute, what's going on here? It is Castle Racing to the lead. So it's taken both of the Aston Martins. So Esteban Masson having got an absolute cracking run here. It's gone by Johnny Adam and caught and past Casper Stevenson now.
And why is there a gap back to Johnny Adam when these two Astons were totally together? So something clearly has happened. Is that a bit of damage on the front right of the 59 Aston Martin as well? Or is that just a bit of the paintwork it's confusing me?
But the gap between Johnny Adam and Casper Stevenson is pretty much the same as it was.
No, they got closer to one another than that. The Stevenson to Adam, they were about a car length apart with the Ferrari behind them. And now it's totally changed. Masson's in front of both of them. And there's a bigger gap. So clearly something's happened. Whether it was a mistake from Casper Stevenson, which then forced Johnny Adam to have to back out of it. But I'm comfortable now that there isn't any damage on the nose of the 59 Aston.
Car 29, that is the TDS. Richard Mille by TDS car. Stop and go. Car's out the race. 2 penalty points due to the contact at turn 3 with car 50. So that's been called against Greg Wassosi. So that's the replay of how he got past Johnny Adam. The other car is about 1.2, 1.4 seconds up the road at that point. And later that lap, at the end of that lap, had caught and now passes the second Aston Martin. So quite the lap from Esteban Masson.
Are they saving fuel? The Aston Martin saving fuel, do you think?
They might well be.
What point are they trying to get to? Because from here, well, it depends how long they've got to go on each of their stints, I suppose.
Well, the other thing you've got to look into is, have they compromised any part of their strategy because of the safety cars and because of driver time?
Yeah.
So all sorts of things get in the mix when you get into as confusing a race as this.
green.
So it could well be. It looks now as if Johnny Adam is catching Casper Stevenson again. New fastest lap of the race is Robert Kubica. He's now 3.6 seconds to go of the Vlad Lomko. And the pair of them are pulling away from the Token Beata. It's another warning on screen for Casper Stevenson about track limits. That's the third I've seen.
And normally, if the pattern continues in that fashion, then it will be a drive-through penalty as the first message from race control, and it can get progressively worse if you keep breaching the track limits after that.
That is the second stop for Ultimate, and that has come after 2 hours and 25 minutes.
And that is a long one as well, because you can spot that because the mechanics just basically stand around, just start whistling. Oh, DKR off the road again. That's Alexander Matchell making a slight mistake. And now as he tries to fend off the 15 RLR car, he can't squeeze that and make sure that that Gaël Julien does not get by.
That's not for position.
It's not for position, though.
That's
what was confusing me.
That's the RLR car getting back onto the lead.
Or is it RLR? No, it's the other RLR car. That's Daniel Ali, isn't it? And the number 5, rather than Gaël Julien. But both RLRs have been struggling in this race.
88 and 17. It is Daniel Ali trying to get back on the lead lap.
Yeah. And
it's all happening, isn't it?
The fight into the chicane was between Kai Aski in 88 and Cedric Ultramar in the Cool Racing car.
Solly Caldwell
fighting with, on the outside, Andy Merrick. Not too far away.
No,
Fabio Shearer's actually
that's the other one. That's Richard Bradley. It's the 20 car. My apologies.
But it was definitely Andy Merrick that they were fighting with.
And Wayne Boyd in the Virage car.
The lighter blue number panels tells you that they're in LMP2 Pro-Am.
This is 3-car battle for third in LMP2 Pro-Am, and it's gone the way of Wayne Boyd, hasn't it?
Merrick left in the gravel, although Bradley now is continuing to fight with the Virage car, and yes, Wayne Boyd still staying ahead, even though the 2 cars arrived into Les Combes side by side, 3rd and 4th, and then Andy Merrick, after that trip into the gravel on the exit of La Source, has lost ground, as you would expect, and now running in 5th position for the Welshman. Kubica still leading. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, it's between 20 and 21, that one we've just observed, noted by race control. 2.8 seconds, yes, Robert Kubica leads the race by. Cap's just come down with a bit of traffic, I think. Vlad Lomko round at a 2:02, it's a 2:04 for the Polish ex-Formula 1 racer. Richard Geras at the moment has been the quickest man on the track this time around as he tries to get to terms with 3rd place with Vittorio Miata. Pace is still there here. Castle Racing's Esteban Masson pulling away from Casper Stevenson, 5 seconds up the road now.
Rivera's having a cracker in the 83 AF Corsa Orica Clear. Now, the question remains exactly how much drive time Francois Perrodo's done in that car. He's the bronze in number 83. We haven't had any of Mathieu Vaxivière. But then again, in a 3-driver lineup, you still only have to do an hour. So Perrodo, I think, has done the 60 minutes.
Oh, yes.
And a lot of that was behind the safety car. So that's the reason why a number of the Pro-Ams actually are having a much better race than we might have expected, because most of the bronze driving time hasn't been held at racing speeds.
So all sorts of ebb and flow to come in all 4 classes here. Looking good for Castle Racing right now in LMGT3. They've clearly got pace at this stage of the race. Kubica keeping an eye on his pace at the moment. I think that was just traffic. He's edging away again now. 3 of 4 classes in the same group of 5 cars here. Through comes the Nielsen Racing car, safely through.
That car started by John Fowl. We've got Nick Yellerly, though, in that car now. This is for his first ever ELMS appearance, is it not?
I believe that's so.
And in fact, well, he's never driven an LMP2 car.
It was due back in, I want to say 2016. It was announced as being part of the leader on the pits and the second place car too. It's part of the Jota effort, but that didn't happen. So he tested but never raced for the team. So let's sort out here with the Nielsen car coming around the outside. Is there any kind of tussle here? I don't think so. I think it's all neat and tidy.
Yeah, that promised to go wrong, awry at any possible moment, but they all squeaked through. Away goes the race leader, Robert Kubica, although Ritoma Iata, through not pitting, has actually taken up the race lead in number 37, Cool Racing.
It's a longer stop here for the 43 car.
The fuel hose has been detached. First gear is engaged. They couldn't let the 43 car go straight away because the Cool Racing was being released.
That was a lot longer.
It is.
Only 54 seconds on pit road from Mayo by TF. The 43 car did how long?
It's not out yet.
But remember, that could have been them taking the advantage of getting the splash earlier. That could have been where that unwound.
The AO car, you mean?
The AO came in, if you recall, as the safety car was just before the safety car was called. If they wanted to turn around the car quickly in a driver change, they may not have opted to take that advantage at that point.
But all three abreast into Bruxelles, and they just about get away with it. How on earth did the contact, was that avoided with the Duquesne car? But it was. Now, I made the point earlier on that all the LMP2s pitted again, though, after that.
They did.
And they all then were able to brim the tank, surely. And that negated any advantage that the 14 might have got.
It's 54 seconds on pit road for the AO by TF car. Vlad Lomko was on pit road for 1 minute and 6.
I think they had a fuel hose issue. Because eventually that was released. How close was this, by the way? Ultimate was the third car in that, the number 35 LMP3 car. And the pincer movement on the Duquesne number 30. And who is that now?
Which, by the way, was for position.
Yes. Yeah, so the 14
Rasmus
car
Lind.
trying to get ahead of Rasmus. Yeah, indeed.
That
Rasmus
was a...
Lind, I should say.
Yep. That was a pretty low percentage move from Kubica.
Well, it came off. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
But yes, it was high risk. It shows how important it was. Remember, these days, particularly in sports car racing, maximise your out lap, maximise your in lap, do not lose any time, and if anything, gain positions, and he did just about do that.
It's going to pay off.
Yeah.
Miata, by the way, on pit lane, as is Ollie Caldwell, who just a moment ago was up to second, as is Rasmus Lind. So Robert Kubica will shortly regain the lead. I think by every measure is keen to put his authority on this race.
Now Lind has overshot the pit bay where he needed to have stopped the number 30 car. Going back to what was going on with the 43, obviously we were viewing the pit stop from a fair distance away, but it did appear that they were waiting for the fuel above anything else. So they may well have done tyres, and then eventually the hose came off. Then they couldn't release the car because a Cool Racing car was already in the fast lane, and if they'd gone straight away, that would have been an unsafe release. So I think one thing has led to another and possibly a third thing.
Pretty certain they didn't do tyres.
Well, OK, so that's even more costly than to have been a fuel-only stop, and for it to have been over 65 seconds.
They would tend to do that at this stage with the driver change, and we've not changed drivers. Robert Kubica it is, though. He's now 16.8 seconds to the go from Vlad Lomko. So that's made a big difference on track. Ritoma Miata seems to have retained third place, and he's right with Lomko. So the net results of the longer stop for Inter Europolis has dropped them off the lead. There is the battle for second now, and it's drawn Miata right back into contention for second place. Fourth, a little way back, Matteo Caroli, he's pushing on. Ahead of Richard de Geras now, and Ollie Gray in the 34 car, and that's quite a recovery for them after that disaster on pit lane. Clipping a team member and breaking the rear wing on that car. Team member, again, remind you after that incident, we are told from the team is okay. That's great news. There's going to be bruises there tomorrow. Vessel Racing lead in LMGT3. Now from GR Racing, that's because the two Aston Martins, Casper Stevenson in the throes of a pit stop. Morgan Hannafin now brought the Grid Motorsport by TF car. Car on its out lap.
So Ritoma Miyata is pushing on because he's just done an absolute best sector 1 time. So 34.6 for the Japanese driver. And that actually is following up from a PB for his car. So bettering any of his previous laps and indeed his teammates. Car 37 going faster than it's managed all day. But the same story can be said about car 28, the Edict Sport car, which sits in 4th, and Alessio Rivera, who's just done a class best lap time of a 2:02.8. So again, conditions out on the circuit are very, very good. 17 degrees Celsius in the air, nearly 40 degrees at track temp, but we were 10 and a bit more degrees hotter than that yesterday, when the ambient temperature was in the late 20s at the hottest portion of the day. Riccardo Pera up against Matteo Cressoni. And this is that old classic battle of Ferrari versus Porsche for second and third in LM GT3. They're ultimately trying to hunt down Esteban Masson, but he's 18, nearly 19 seconds clear at the head of LM GT3 and will pit at the end of this lap, Esteban Masson. So I'm sure we've had all of Takeshi Kimura's drive time done. Daniel Serra still to come as the platinum rated driver in number 57. So if anything, that Ferrari's going to get even faster when Pera takes charge. Is this the point that that will happen? Now, this is an awkward time to be pitting if we stay green to the finish, because these cars are going to have to pit again with about 25 minutes to go. So Masson slipping to third. Pera will take up the LM GT3 lead. And the two Aston Martins are still right together. Casper Stevenson stayed on board, the 59, but there was a driver change in the 97. With Johnny Adam out and Lorca Hannafin taking over. And a few moments ago at the end of the Kemmel Straight, an overtake for Panis Racing, number 65, down the inside of the 25 Algarve Pro Racing car.
Yeah, that's Charles Malaysi on Ollie Caldwell, 2023, I want to say, teammate at Alpine. Now, Ollie Caldwell, of course, continues on in LMP2. Charles Malaysi, Alpine hypercar seat. Kubica, 17 seconds to good from Pladlonko, who's under pressure still from Ritoma Miyata for second place. Matteo Caroli looking to see what he can do to try to close that gap, but it's 16 seconds. Richard de Geras, 5 seconds further back. Ollie Gray, Stefan Riquelme for Vector Sport, good run from them again. He's in the mix with Ollie Gray for 6th. Then we get out to Alessio Rivera leading LMP2 Pro-Am. That car, though, I think has to serve 5 seconds in the next pit stop, doesn't it?
Oh, okay.
I'm sure that's right. It's one of 2 or 3 cars that does.
Right.
Ben Viscal, I think, has already done that. I think Alessio Rivera has not yet done that.
So, just tell me again, which car were you asking about?
83, I'm sure, had to do 5 seconds more. What I don't know is whether or not they've already done it.
They're two different things.
They could well have done. I think they may have done.
Okay.
So they are something like 20 seconds clear of their nearest class rival. It is the battle for the 2 Aston Martins and LM GT3. At the moment, this is the battle for 5th, but that will wind back to be close to the lead battle, sort of podium positions, and Lorcan Hannafin goes by Casper Stevenson.
So the Astons are at Pouhon, heading out towards Le Fagnes corner and about to be caught by the 22 United Autosports car, which went right over, straddling the white line there, but being absolutely having its wheels driven off. Car 22 for United Autosports. That's in the hands of Marino Sato.
Yep, top 3 cars, by the way, at the moment in LMGT3, all on pit lane. 4th place car, the 57 car that led into that pit stop cycle, is on its way out. So GR Racing, Proto Competition 60 and the 51 from AF Corse are all on pit road, which means that from this point forward, the 57 and this pair are closing that gap.
with thanks to Jeff Carter, the press officer of the European Le Mans Series, 83 did indeed take its penalty on the last stop.
Right, so that's...
we can scrub that.
Good news for them. So their advantage over the nearest class rival, which is the number 3 Decar Engineering car in the hands of Turkish driver Ken Bolabesi, at the moment is pretty close to 30 seconds.
Kubica leading by 17.3 seconds. In LMP2 Pro-Am, Alessio Rivera still well ensconced in that top 10 overall, with Mathieu Vaxivière still to come in the closing stint, and with an hour and 20 still to go. From this point, we might see LMP2 starting to pit, because we're 2 stints away, basically, from the end of the race. So are they going to marry things up with where the checkered flag is expected, or do you just push on until your fuel runs out at the end of this stint, and then maybe think about a shortened stint at the end, not quite a splash and dash, but maybe a 20-minute spell rather than the normal 40 minutes?
There are multiple incidents still under investigation, by the way. In LMGT3, as we suggested, Esteban Masson has cycled round to the lead again, but second place is now Matteo Crisoni in the number 60 Proton Competition Porsche. That comes courtesy of, I think, what was a fuel-only stop against a stop for tyres for the cars around him, but it's put him ahead of the battling Aston Martins. GR Racing and AF Corsa emerge in 5th and 6th place. Davide Rigon, though, now at the wheel, and he's emerged 10 seconds back from Casper Stevenson. Lots of racing still to come in this, I'm afraid, rather truncated LMGT3 field after dramas for the other half of the runners in the first half of this race.
Hearing from Inter-Europol competition, with thanks to Earl Alexander, that was just a slow stop for car 43. It was fuel only. You were quite right, they didn't do tyres. But whether it took a while to get the nozzle on or the nozzle off or both, who knows? But it took about 10 seconds longer than the time you normally would do a fuel stop in. Sarah Bovey now back in her civvies, chatting to members of the Iron Dames crew, the engineering team behind their Porsche, at precisely what happened at Les Combes corner, involving 3 other cars, if you count Johnny Lawson as well.
5 seconds to be added for the 20 car. That's Algar Pro Racing, just taken over by Alex Quinn after that contact with the 21 into La Source. So that's been called against the Algar Pro car. So we'll be taking the next pit stop.
Here we go to the fastest part of the circuit in the command of Ritoma Miata at the wheel of his LMP2 car. Still living every single moment of that crash. There were 2 different ones, of course. I'll work out who she's talking to.
It's not Andrea Piccini, I can tell you that.
But she's in the Iron Lynx garage, yes, chatting to the Lamborghini guys. So it's more about what happened at Eau Rouge Raidillon, and saying, listen, I thought I would go left because I thought Hiroshi had a problem, and then it appeared that he didn't quite go through the corner. I'm putting words in her mouth here, but this is potentially what she's chatting through, and of course it put both cars out on the spot if you weren't with us earlier on.
Ritoma Miata looking for a way onto the back of and round the 43 car for second place overall. He's got the great toe there, looks to the outside line. There's no room this time around for the Japanese driver. This is developing into quite a battle. Ahead of them, by the way, Robert Kubica is just heading for the hills. 19 seconds up the road now. Showing pace that has to be said, Johnny. It's going to take a safety car to impact.
So Miata very close indeed to Lomco, and doesn't want to lose touch with Kubica if he can help it, but Lomco's not going to create the opening. Miata's going to have to try that himself, and close enough. He was coming out of Speaker's Corner at turn 9, but then the gap opens up again before Pouon. So these two are getting a little tangled up or a little distracted by one another, and that's playing nicely into Robert Kubica's hands. The AO by TF Sport car, number 14. 1.2 seconds adrift is Oliver Gray in the Inter-Europol competition car of Richard de Guiras, the EDEX Sport car, with Alessia Rivera in the AF Corsa number 83, still leading in the LMP2 Pro-Am. DKR Engineering leads the Alexander Maxwell's hands for LMP3, car number 4, and it's Antoine Ducas in his Racing Spirit of Le Mans car number 31, is 27 seconds or so further down the road, with Bernardo Pinheiro for Team Virage in car number 8 completing the podium at this early stage. But we still have an hour and 15 minutes still to go, and in the case of LMP2s, probably 2 more stops, 2 more to get them home. And that assumes we stay green. That's quite a big assumption, I will admit, at this point, because we've had so much intervention from the safety car.
So amongst the 4 classes, Johnny, the ones at the moment that look to be the surest hits, if you like, are Kestrel Racing doing really well at the moment in LMGT3. Robert Kubica increasingly dominant here in LMP2, and for the overall win. Pretty certain both of those cars would be first-time winners this year.
I'll bow to your greater knowledge. I need to go back through the archives, but I've got too many screens open.
No, definitely AO by TF, because that equates with the rather nice stat for Louis Delatraz. If he wins here, it will be a win.
For 4 different teams, in 4 different seasons, yeah, but sequential years. Entirely so. And it goes back to the point that I was making earlier on about AO by TF. I didn't expect to have waited this long for as good a race as they've been having to this point. Let's not speak too soon, because there are many that don't want us to put the kibosh on it, but it's pretty sweet at the moment for AF by TF, leading by nearly 21 seconds. But it feels like the type of race that could twist and turn in a matter of moments.
In fact, Kestrel Racing have not had a podium this year.
Okay.
In the European Le Mans Series, they currently sit 11th place in the championship, 9th retirement and 4th so far. And Esteban Maton is looking to right that wrong.
Quite a sketchy exit out of turn 9 then for Nick Yellowly. He was all through the gravel, although he did keep 2 Goodyear tyres on the black stuff. But it wasn't the ideal route out of there. Louis Delatraz is getting a final chat from
Jean Denis.
Oh, beg pardon.
That was Jean Denis. That was his dad. Yes.
Excellent. And he goes, yeah. I know what to do. I know what to do.
I know you've been in Formula One. I know.
I know you were famous once, but now it's me grabbing the headlines. It certainly has been this weekend.
There's a little bit of a remarkable stat about our LMGT3 championship standings, by the way. It's the top 2 cars in the series standings haven't won a race. Iron Lynx, until today, not off the podium. And it certainly will be now, because that Lamborghini is not going to complete this race. And Racing Spirit Le Mans, 6th, 3rd and 2nd. Well, they are still somewhat in the running for a potential podium finish.
Quite a lot of drivers are now starting to push it a bit as far as track limits are concerned, mainly at the end of the lap, so coming through turn 19. I wonder if they're shortcutting the left-hand element of the bus stop chicane. Lomco, in fact, he's been pinged twice in recent times, along with Oliver Gray in number 34 for Inter-Europol, and Charles Milac's being watched in car 65 for Panis. 6th overall, 5th in the LMP2s, but if they continue to do that, then we are going to be very close to potential drive-through penalties.
Yeah, Ollie Gray, I think, has got out the car now.
Right, but of course it's not the driver that the accumulates that, it will be awarded or assessed to the team.
Leader in the pits, Robert Kubica. This will be Louis Delatraz climbing aboard for the final 70 minutes of this race. That was some stints from him, putting something like 20 seconds on the field after the last safety car, and did that with verve. Laszlo for the time being takes the lead of the race. Ritomo Miata also on pit lane, as is Richard de Geras, great export, and I'm sure we're going to see some more driver changes here. Kubica helmet off, should be reasonably chuffed with his day, I'd have thought. Yep, that was almost cracking a smile, almost.
It was high risk at times, though.
Oh, it was.
You know, think about that move on the 30 Duquesne car of Rasmus Lind. And the Swedish driver was getting the pincer movement from the 35 as well, that it was trying to overtake. So you had Lind trying to clear the 35 Ultimate car, and then dive-bombing the two of them was Kubica on his outlap, but breathing, and all the panels were still straight on the 14 car. It's in a cracking position now, although having fallen to fourth, but with Louis Delatraz now having taken over. Cold tyres, remember. Tyre warmers outruled from this championship last year.
Yep.
It's the second year of that rule set. It makes it more interesting. It means you can't push like crazy on the outlap, but you kind of do need to get the tyres in the window as early as possible.
Well, Delatraz emerges from pit lane 56 seconds off the lead, but the three cars ahead of him, which by the way include the LMP2 Pro-Am leader from AF Corsa, all are on a different pit stop strategy and will need to stop again. Well, they'll all need to stop again, but they'll need to stop again. So it's 2 stops left for the lead 3 cars, 1 stop left if all goes well for AO by TF. Marino Sato, meanwhile, off sequence as well, is right with Delatraz. He's getting a track limits warning as I speak. So Vlad Lunko pitting from the lead now. Expect him to be followed down pit lane pretty shortly by both Alessio Rivera in the 83 AF Corsa car and Sean Malaysia in the Panis Racing car, which looks set for a pretty good result here today. Car 37, by the way, which is in this mix as well. Unsafe release noted.
So that's Miata in the Cool Racing car, which have been going great guns to this point. Malte Jakobsen's now taken over the 37 car, but Miata's labelled as the driver. He was still on the timing screen, effectively, until Jakobsen triggers it with his new driver ID. Vlad Lonko released. Is that a better pit stop? Well, no, it'll be slower because they will have done a driver change in car 43 with Tom Dillman, who did well in qualifying yesterday. Was he third in the end? Car 43, yes, he was. Dillman third. It was Charmy Lacey that put the Panis car on the front row, and Delatraz, who's now taken charge of number 14, took the pole position for the first time for AO. There goes Delatraz through Eau Rouge with a couple of chasing LMP3s that he will have just cleared, I'm sure.
Alessio Rivera leads the race at the moment. This is a pit stop, but it is the LMP2 Pro-Am car that leads. And it's 2 Pro-Am cars in the top 4 because Nielsen Racing's Nick Yellerly has made great progress, and he's in 4th place right now.
So Rivera, Milesi and Marino Sato for number 22 United Autosports cars, as we have 67 minutes of the race still to go. Getting to the really important stage now then, and for the majority of the LMP2 field, 1 more stop to go. When we get to the hour mark, we'll give you a rundown of what the positions are, but that will pretty much trigger a flurry of LMGT3s and probably LMP3s as well to tick off longer stops if they need to do them. Looking down at, for example, Team Virage in the number 8 LMP3 car. I think they've still got to do a longer stop, but that remains to be seen. There's been 1 or 2 little quibbles with the
tweaks.
timing system so
Yes.
far today, so some of the data it will have been recorded somewhere.
I think we've got a couple of long stops for some of the top cars still to come very soon indeed in LMP3.
Well, in fact, I mean, look across at Virage's last stop. That wasn't a long stop. They've only done one other one, so definitely it's going to be a 1:45 for car 8 when they pit for the final time. And then, and only then, will the complexion of LMP3 start to become clear.
So 66 minutes left. Fair to say, Johnny, that the opening period of this race was somewhat incident-scarred, but we've had some very good green flag running and racing since then. They, of course, lead the race from Panis Racing, 1.4 seconds between the two, but both those cars need to pit, as does the third place car and the fourth place car.
Marino Sato being told to respect the track limits a little more. Again, it's at turn 19, and there's that incident that involved cars 20 and 21 that's going to be looked into as well. So that was within the LMP2 Pro-Am ranks. Algarve Pro, or was that the one, the Richard Bradley and Andy Merritt one for quite some time ago? Yeah, at the Fania corner.
Meantime, the battle of the cars that we know are on the same pit stop strategy. AA by TF, car handed over to Louis Delatraz on new Goodyears. Tom Dillman, courtesy of a quicker stop because they don't think they did take tyres. That gap's 6.5 seconds now. Keep an eye on that one. So, onto pit lane, Alessio Rivera, driver switch ready for them. Panis Racing take the lead for the moment. They will likely be on pit road shortly, though. Here comes the 83 from the lead. Excellent effort here from AF Corsa. Running Oricas both sides of the Atlantic. Confirmed they'll be back in the IMSA Championship with their efforts next year again too. Hopefully have news of further AF Corsa programmes in the coming days.
There's the 65 that leads after nearly 3 hours, but remember that pit stops are happening at various different times within a 40-minute chunk that an LMP2 car can generally do. So we're expecting Ritoma Miata and, or rather Shami Lacey, Marino Sato to drop away from the overall race lead. Nick Yellerly's doing a splendid job in command of the Nielsen racing car, number 24. And Louis Delatraz not panicking just yet because he knows that he's got a stop that has been done. He'll have to stop one more time, but those cars ahead of him have not yet done their penultimate stops. So it'll be 2 more, we reckon, for Milesi and Sato and Yellerly from this point on. And that should rather open the door to Louis Delatraz to be in a great position entering the final hour in car 14.
So, incidents early in the race, big shake-up, particularly in the LMGT3 order, but also interrupted the LMP2 and LMP2 Pro-Am battles. So it's all still set to shake out. We've got cars that have been involved in substantial delays and incidents, Johnny, still in this fight.
Yeah, and as we so often know, that because there are things being investigated in the system, that can often result in a last-minute message, either to do a drive-through, or sometimes if there's not sufficient time to react to a drive-through penalty, then 30 seconds is added to the race time after the flag. And we've always got to be paying attention to the Alcamel screens here at the track to see what adjustments are made. But it can affect some key players, so you can't take your eyes off the result until, well, certainly until it becomes final, which can be a few hours, in fact, after the race has finished, whilst the investigations continue.
Nick Yellerly pits, cycles back down through the order for the moment. That's pushes Louis Delatraz and Tom Dillman. The gap is closing still, you know, it's 5 seconds between those two. Still got Sean Malaysia, Marino Sato at the top of Tonnigan scoring, but I believe they owe us pit stops.
Yeah, I think we're pretty safe to say that. But I'm impressed with the speed and their consistency as well. A few moments ago, got very, very tight indeed between a couple of LMP3 cars, and that's the 12 for WTM by Rinaldi Racing of Leo Weiss, almost tangling with Cedric Ultramar.
That's a battle for position, by the way.
Yeah, 17 for Cedric is in 4th, and Leo Weiss was gunning for that position. He remains in 5th. Jean-Baptiste Le Hay wasn't quite close enough to capitalise on that eventual mistake from Leo Weiss. Kai Askey in the pits in the Inter-Europol competition, 88 from P3, and also Gaël Julien making their final stop in the RLR M Sport car, number 15, because you can make it home from here, even if we stay green in an LMP3 car. Fuel burn around this place is pretty high. The amount of time you're on full throttle, well, particularly in the early sector and the third sector, in fact, it's foot to the board for most of it, but the middle, tricky, technical section of the Spa-Francorchamps circuit means you can't go fully low downforce. You need lots of that invisible hand pushing the car down onto the track surface through places like Les Combes and Pouhon and Le Fagnes as well. So it is definitely a walking a tightrope in terms of the ideal setup around this place. And I was having an interesting chat with one or two over the weekend in that they are compromising their straight line speed down the Kemmel Straight because of that, what that gains you then in the second sector. From the end of Kemmel all the way round to Campus Corner, the car's got to stick like glue.
Into the final hour, Johnny. Panis Racing, Charles Malaysia leads from Marino Sato. That's 24 seconds, the gap. Louis Delatraz is closing in on Sato, but Delatraz on a different pit stop strategy. The two ahead of him will need to stop, but he's being closed down still by Tom Dillman. Now, I'm guessing that Delatraz is looking after those tyres, and I'm guessing he's on a fuel strategy as well, but the pace isn't quite what we'd expect from Louis at this point. It's a heavy car recently out the pits, but...
Well, I think back to that race he had at Le Castellet last year, when he was driving on very, very old tyres for... What team was that for now? I'm trying to remember, but... Oh, it was Racing Team Turkey, yes. As I remembered it, Steve Wentworth, like a kind of somebody on my shoulder, my conscience.
Really?
Popped into my ears and went, Racing Team Turkey, Johnny. Thanks, Steph. Yeah, remember the front left tyre because of senior corning? There was nothing left on it.
Shredded.
Side by side here, they're coming out of the final corner. We're concentrating on the 65 going into pit lane. However, the two cars on the racetrack, that's the 23 United Autosports car, battling with 47, of Cool Racing. So it is for position. It's Ferdy Habsburg and Paul Di Resta. So no wonder they're taking chunks out of one another.
But they are way, way back.
You wouldn't expect him to be 19th and 20th overall.
Marino Sato also on pit lane. That means here comes our leader. And in the background you can see the green and yellow car, the 43 car. So Tom Dillman, 4 seconds back now. The 22 car comes to a stop.
But yeah, going back to the point about Louis Delatraz, he knows what it's like to have pushed way too hard and have no tyre left. So maybe he is deliberately taking things easy whilst the car is heavy, whilst the temperature of the tyre, well, it'll be there now, but you've got to be conscious not to be whacking the curbs, particularly if he's thinking, I need these tyres not just for this stint, but for the next one as well.
Third place, by the way, behind this battling pair is the first of the LMP2 Browns. It's now Algarve Pro Racing in the hands of Alex Quinn. Fourth, as I speak, Malte Jakobsen, 13 seconds off the lead, closing. And he's just gone by Felipe Albuquerque in the 21 United Autosports car. So the young Dane ahead of the highly experienced and very rapid Portuguese driver. Who's in here, I think that is for Ollie Jarvis, who's on IMSA duty this weekend.
Here's Delatraz clearing an LMP3 car, the Inter-Europol competition one of Pedro Perino.
Meantime, LMP3 final stops are underway for a number of teams. This is going to start to wind out now. Just to know exactly who is going to emerge in contention here. There's number 8 car, held up there amongst it, the Team Virage squad, Bernardo Panero. Right-hand drive, these Ligier prototypes.
Well, Virage had done 2 stops, the second of which was 1:07, which isn't one of the long ones, so this has got to be 1:45. As far as the DKR, the WTM car is concerned, they attempted a long stop as their first, but it was a second, probably a lot less than a second short. But 1:44 is the only time we get shown, and that is not enough. So they will have had to have converted their other 2 stops into long ones as well, and that's now going to be very, very costly. Yeah, it's going to cost them dearly, I'm afraid. So AO/TF regain the lead. It's 4.4 seconds ahead. The charging Tom Dillman. Alex Quinn is a further 2.2 seconds back. You can see him there in the background. That is the Algar Pro car, but it's not the Pro Class car. It's the Pro-Am car. Cool Racing's Milton Jakobsen a further 6 seconds back and closing on all the cars ahead. He's in the 202s, the cars ahead in the 203s or 204s. Felipe Albuquerque still motoring on, dropping a little bit of time to the day in that last time around, and Bent Viscal right there as well. And 3 of the top 6 cars, Johnny, are Pro-Am cars. Yeah, mighty effort. But as we've said many times before, they are identical in terms of specification to the LMP2s. It's only the driver makeup that is different. And with the bronze burning time, or the bronze drive time, so affected by safety cars in the opening half of the race, this is where the field is effectively equalised. The remainder of the top 10, by the way, all occupied by LMP2 class cars. It's Duquesne Team, Ironlinks Proton, Vector Sports and EDEX Sports. James Allen, Achiro Capieto, Felipe Drugovich and Job van Uter, and those 4 cars separated by less than 2 seconds. There's a lot of red. There we go. That is the group we're just talking about. Van Uter at the back of that group with Drugovich ahead, Capieto and James Allen looking to make an escape from that group in the Duquesne Team car. There he is. Noticing all of a sudden a little bit of porpoising from these LMP2 cars. It's probably been happening all weekend, but the 3 of them, I mean, dirty air does exist, of course, in this type of racing. So when the air's not cleanly running over your car because it's heavily disrupted by not 1 but 2 LMP2s, as is the case with Job in the 28, then maybe he's starting to feel that a little bit more than, say, in qualifying yesterday. Therefore, important for Job van Uter to recover or to clear these 2 cars as quickly as possible. Felipe Drugovich directly in front in the white, black and red, and then it is the 9 car of Matteo Capieto for Ironlinks Proton. Not too far behind, by the way, is the Team Virage car, and traffic there finishing the lap. Restaurant Vautier dropping back a little to that group, and also Luca Giotto in the 34 car. Was involved in the pit lane incident earlier. In 12th position, 8th in LMP2. This time, weaving around Capieto, trying to fend off Drugovich. He's going to go on the outside. He's done it. But Job van Uter didn't make the corner at all. He wasn't attempting an overtake, but found himself on the runoff at Les Combes. Really taken advantage from that, so could just feed back in, as long as he did so safely. And now he's got good momentum coming out of Bruxelles corner, so Matteo Capieto does appear to be struggling a touch in comparison to Felipe Drugovich. And is this Job van Uter's moment, not into Pouon, but possibly at the end of the lap into the chicane to nip ahead of car number 9. They're all LMP2 cars here, as opposed to the Pro-Am versions, but they're not
from Vautier.
Vautier I wasn't mentioning, but Vautier you can lump in there as well.
He's right there now. He's caught them, and they're being caught as well by Luca Giotto in the 34. So, of course, we've got a couple of cars freed up, and Van Uter has made his way past Capieto. Vautier is closing as well on the Italian.
Vautier for his first ELMS race of the season 2.
Battle here for third place in LMP3 between Julien and Wyatt Bricacek. Bricacek, remember, started from the back of the grid. Julien from pole position.
So we didn't necessarily cover this earlier on, but in the number 19 Virage car, we've still got Tony Wells, but no longer Matt Bell or Nelson Piquet Jr. Is that just a temporary thing?
Yeah, so not sure about Piquet. Matt Bell is another driver cup tied with him, so this weekend he drives the AWA Corvette team in GTD. It's a GT only race this weekend at VIR in the United States.
And Tristan Vautier is a name I associate with IMSA racing, actually, but he hasn't got a driving championship this year.
The two of them, and the last time I gathered they drove in the same paddock, he tells us, or Wayne Boyd and Tristan Vautier, was the Road to Indy back in 2011.
Right.
Two different series, but I think in aligned teams. Here comes the race leader through that battle. And the gap is still 4.7 seconds. So Tom Dillman not closing the gap anymore. Might briefly through this traffic, but then he's got to deal with it himself.
Our focus here really was the fight for third in LMP3, but then, as you say, Louis Delatraz arrived on the scene, and actually now the 4 car has got ahead. So Wyatt Bricacek squeaking in front of Gael Julien. These two should have done battle together on track in qualifying yesterday until Bricacek's car lost a wheel on its outlap of qualifying.
Oh, so there's a head to the rear of Dillman from the third of those LMP3 cars.
Which is the Racing Spirit of Le Mans, number 31, now being driven by Anton Ducas. So the second place overall car of Tom Dillman, the yellow and green 43, will now clear Wyatt Bricacek.
What damage has that run through the trio done to his chassis? It was 4.7 seconds as he got into that traffic. Let's see what the gap is when they clear the next timing beam on pit road. The current leader in LMP2 Pro, Alex Quinn, threaded the needle. Didn't give a lot of space there for the LMP3 car to brake, but no harm, it would appear. And, race control and stewards can decide whether or not there was foul.
That's tough on Ducas if they do penalise him, because, I mean, what choice did he make? He didn't even know Dillman was going to be there, probably when he hit the brakes.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden a P2 car arrives. It was a fairly even headbutt, so I think it's done, you know, it's done minimal damage across the whole rear deck of the 43. Had it been at a more of an angle, that would have been a bigger issue for Dillman.
The answer, by the way, is Dillman closed by over a second through that traffic, 3.5 seconds, so he's still closing the gap. Melter Jakobsen, meantime, is closing the gap on all the two of them ahead. It is 10 seconds across the top 3. 6.8 seconds back from Tom Dillman is Melter Jakobsen. Well, 48 minutes to go, and someone's just turning the heat up, aren't they, here, metaphorically?
It always happens. It always happens because they sense the checkered flag. They can almost taste the champagne in some cases, and there's just a little bit more on offer, and there's a bit more to risk for it as well. And this is why it's confusing when you get clashes in the opening hour and you think, well, you can't win the race in the opening 60 minutes. But as we head towards the final LMP2 stints of around about 40 minutes, you can understand why a bit more risk is being taken.
Let's take a quick look at the overall order and the classes. It is Louis Delatraz, 5.4 seconds, must be a little bit more traffic kicking into this one. Tom Dillman ahead of Tom Dillman, with Melter Jakobsen closing in on the Frenchman. AO'd by TF from Inter-Europol competition in Cool Racing. Felipe Drugovich 22 seconds back from that, and under pressure for his 4th place from Jok Panuta, Vector Sport from Edex Sport. Luca Giotto has just gone by Matteo Capietto, 6th place in Inter-Europol's 34 car, ahead of the number 9 from Iron Links Proton. Pan is racing 8th in the hands of Charles Malaysi. Leading LMP2 Pro-Am, Mathieu Vazevier in the 83 car, 9th overall. His closest contender just out the pits is Alex Quinn, 12th overall, and the gap there is about 20 seconds, maybe a little less than that. to the Algarve Pro number 20 car. Proto competition 77 in the hands of Ben Fiscal is 10 seconds back in third, and under pressure from Lawrence Hearn, the DKR engineering car, 6 seconds back in fourth. LMP3, Euro International's Adam Ali leads the way from Ultimate's 35 car in the hands of Jean-Baptiste Lehay. Wyatt Brickercheck from the back of the grid sits third. Gelt Julien for RLRM Sports sits fourth, with Antoine Ducan in the Racing Spirit 131 car sitting fifth. In LMGT3, a race which has seen more or less half the grid eliminated with incidents, Kessel Racing's Esteban Masson is 31 seconds clear of Matteo Cressoni. What a cracking race for them. Don't think we've yet seen Daniel Serra in that car.
I agree. Yeah, I was calling that we might get a driver change in the last pit stop for Masson, and it didn't happen because Masson's been going so well, but they will have to stop again though.
Still waiting for, by the way, that's the Duquesne car just going straight on as the leader gets involved at Les Combes for a decision on an unsafe release with Rotoma Miata. That is the third place car now in the hands of Milton Jakobsen. That could be a significant moment here.
And we did just get a message about Marina Sato's car being under investigation for track limits, but they've corrected that now. So car 22 is a warning at this stage. The under investigation is more concerning because nearly always that does result in a penalty. So as far as Martin Jakobsen's car is concerned, the 37, that is now under investigation. The car that he shares with Rotoma Miata. So is there about to be a drive-through penalty assessed to car 37, which runs third on the road?
Well, that would be unfortunate, but these things matter, as we've seen some dramas on pit lane already today. Louis Delatraz looking comfortable. It has still just edged around that 3.5 to 5 second gap with or without traffic, but Tom Dillman is clearly pushing on. Quicker lap time last time around than the Swiss driver.
Grid Motorsport Aston Martin with Lorcan Hannafin driving in the pink and dark blue colours, and it will pit for the final time. Because of the various safety cars earlier on, various LMGT3 strategies have been thrown right out the window. So we're in this uneven pattern. I think that's the case with the 57 Ferrari as well. So in the end, Daniel Serra might only get about 35 minutes.
Well, Cressoni didn't take tyres last time from second. He's on pit lane with the 97 car and the 59 car, battling the pits then for podium positions. Davide Rigon 38 seconds behind Esteban Masson as GR Racing move up to second. This is the battle between Joop van Uite. He pulls the dummy on Felipe Drugovich. He's going to make that move into and through the bus stop. Neatly done there by the Dutchman. And the Brazilian. That is the battle for fourth. Drugovich didn't like that much. Tries to do return move on Joop van Uite coming into La Source. No way of doing that there.
Luca Giotto will be wanting this to happen a bit more because he's almost with them. And as they slow each other up, Drugovich, something's gone wrong with Drugovich's car because it all of a sudden doesn't have any speed at all through Eau Rouge and Radion. So yes, the pass has been made, but I'm more concerned that maybe that's a slow puncture for Drugovich on the Vector Sport car, as now in the foreground, Joop van Uite clears the third-placed LMP3. That was weird because the 10's pace just suddenly nosedived. And
you'd have said if that was an older car, missed a gear, but he just didn't.
It did, yeah, but it had that look about it. And on the sector times, Drugovich, well, it lost him about 3 seconds through the first sector. So let's hope that doesn't continue on. Drugovich is now exiting turn 9 towards Pouin.
Giotto, though, is motoring here, and he's looking to get onto terms with Van Uite. There we go. This is the final change for the so far rampant Kessel Racing squad.
And it is going to be just over a 40-minute stint there for Daniel Serra in the 57 car. Through goes Giotto on some more traffic.
Lorcan Hanafin, by the way, has rejoined in the Grid Motorsport by TF car in 3rd place because of the longer stop we predicted for Proton competition, but it's Julian Anlauen out the wheel there. It's another very quick driver with a very short stint. Nico Veroni in the 51 car as well. 5 seconds added to the next pit stop for the 37 car, and that, I think, is going to be enough to keep them out of any kind of contention for the win here. They're 12 seconds away. You effectively add 5 to that.
Yeah. So, yeah, the 37 was under investigation for an unsafe release. I mistakenly said it was track limits earlier on, which isn't. Unsafe release isn't a drive-through. Track limits may have been, but the 37 is clear of a track limit infringement at this stage. So, yes, it's a lot less costly for Malte Jakobsen.
Dragovic on pit lane. So we're going to see whether or not this was a hiccup or a more serious problem. They're fueling the car as they would.
Well, bizarrely, he's pitting at the perfect time to make this a full final stint. So was it a tyre just starting to issue a little bit of air from a faulty valve maybe, or something he's picked up on the road, or...
Did he have a cough on fuel?
Was he running out of fuel, was my next guess. And was it that nip and tuck? Maybe they didn't realise, well, I suppose on the uphill bit of Radion, that may be where the fuel pump is struggling most as the angle of the car changes.
Got tyres for the number 10 car.
Front right is changed, front left is changed.
Is it just front? No, all four.
A full set, but they're not brand new tyres going on to the car. So it shows how much of a premium these Goodyear Eagles are.
I think they changed 3. I don't think they changed all 4.
That's an interesting way of doing it, and it's all the crucial tyres as well. No, I would have said that the 2 rears and the front left would have been the crucial ones. They definitely changed the front right as well. A reminder that you only get 12 individual tyres for a 4-hour race.
Yeah.
And it's really 6 stints, so you're getting 3 stints worth of tyre for a 6-stint race.
So effectively, first off, what have been, it's about to go a lap down, by the way, to the race leader. First of have been the lead group to make a final stop. And this phase, by the way, Tom Dillman is closing that gap. It's under 3 seconds again.
Delatraz to Dillman, first and second. Malte Jakobsen's going to fall 5 seconds further back.
Yeah, and it's dropped back a bit. Plus, we've got that 5 seconds.
And very dramatically drifting its way through Le Fagna corner was the 60 car there. So Julian Anlauen was wasting no time at all. He hasn't got the sort of stint length that he might have expected, as in the full stint. So he's enjoying himself whilst he can. Unfortunately, that car, well, 4th position. And whilst things settle down from the latest pit stops in LMGT3, we'll find out how much more time he's got to find. He's only 9 seconds away from Lorcan Hanafin, and has just done the car's best middle sector.
We think Davide Regon has still got to stop, don't we?
Regon, yes, surely.
He has to be, because he can't.
He's only done 3. The car's only done 3
so
stops.
he does need to stop. But he's got 47 seconds over Daniel Serra. So he's the last stopper required for LMGT3. The key thing is, where is that going to drop him to?
The team will be trying to work out the permutations as to where it will slot back into.
Dillman is right with the leader. What is going on with Louis Delatraz? 1.6 seconds now.
Yeah. Don't know what sort of traffic they are in. Just have a little look. There's quite a lot of it, actually, around La Source. Some of it's LMGT3 as well. So is it Delatraz just not able to get through that?
Jakobsen on pit lane for the final pit stop. This is the extended pit stop required. That will drop him. Shouldn't lose him a place, actually, that 5 seconds, because Job van Uite is 20 seconds back. So it will for the moment, but as it cycles back, shouldn't drop him off the podium. Luca Giotto to fine stint, pits from 5th.
It was Nico Verone that the leaders were trying to get through, and before that, well, Drugovic will be as quick as them just about. There was an LMP3 car that might have compromised Delatraz and Dillman as they went through the bus stop chicane, but otherwise it might just be sheer pace from Tom Dillman.
Well, it's a 2:05.7 last time around from Louis Delatraz. That's slower than we've seen from him. To put that into context, 2:03.4 from Dillman, 2:02.6 from Van Uter, so 2:01.7 from a charging Sharma Lacey.
Yeah. And again, how have you utilised your very compromised tyre allocation through the course of the race? Did you know, have they kept back a pristine set of good years for maybe even the final stint? Generally, they'll be doubling, surely, in the closing stages for the penultimate and this final stint. Most of which the LMP2s have begun that final run to the line now.
Race leader at the moment in LM GT3, Davide Rigon, Ferrari factory driver, of course, powering on. 47 seconds to the good from fellow factory driver Ferrari, this time in the Kessel Racing 57 car, but Rigon needs to stop once more, and it will be more than 47 seconds if that takes.
Interesting to see the stickered tyres that Iron Link's Proton were putting on the number 9 car, so they actually have held back a whole set, or certainly one of the tyres still had a sticker on it. It might be like they were putting 2 brand new tyres on, and they've therefore spread the really good tyres in half. So you put a couple on prior to the penultimate stint, the other 2 on ahead of the final stint, and try and eke out that performance for as long as possible.
Louis Delatraz's pace back into the 2:02s. 2:02.9 for him, 2:03.0 for the chasing Tom Dillman. 1.5 seconds. New fastest lap of the race goes to the 4th place car, Sharma Lacey, a 2:01.257. Heating up again. He's got 15 seconds to find to get on terms with Job van Uitert. Milton Jacobsen on his out lap now after that, it's 1:08, that pit stop for Cool Racing with that 5-second penalty, and he's dropped in behind Marino Sato, just behind Marino Sato.
15 seconds to Job van Uitert sounds like it might be impossible, but the way Charles Mallacy is pushing
It's just
speed, then
it's just taking a second out of Job van Uitert, who is not hanging around.
No, but it is all relevant to how you've played your race to this point, and Panis, who've not been spectacular to date, might be about to grab some headlines late on.
Into the lead in LMGT3 goes Daniel Serra with Davide Rigon on pit road for GR Racing. How big a gap, and where is he going to emerge? He's rolling, we can see on our other monitor, so I think he's going to get out in 2nd place, Johnny. That's again another good result for GR Racing. So Daniel Serra for Kessel Racing. It's Ricardo Perez got back in the car.
Perez, who did the previous stint, didn't he? So who brought the GR car in?
Davide Rigon.
Yes, you're right, because we were talking about whether Rigon needed to stop or not. Right, so they put Perez back in again.
Could there be trouble here for the 3rd place car, as we've got AO by TF on pit lane. Final stop for the race leader. Tom Dillman takes the lead for now, but we're hearing car 28 under investigation, pit stop.
Car 28 pits now, in fact. Job van Uitert just going by at 60 kilometres per hour, going by the AO by TF car as the final bit of fuel goes in. It's 32 minutes to the flag, so that won't be a full tank. Something like 3/4 worth of fuel, and away goes the all-in-backed car.
So still one stop to come for the 43 car. 65 car Sharma Lacey, that must pit as well. AO by TF, away and gone. Louis Delatraz, 3rd place, but with the cars ahead of him needing to pit. Cycling back up the order, of course, is Mathieu Vazevière leading LMP2 Pro-Am. He'd export on pit lane with Job van Uitert, and with investigation about a previous pit stop for the French team.
There's the 17 in LMP3, which is Manuel Espirito Santo, the car that was qualifying second ahead of today's race. But race leader Tom Dillman is also occupying this portion of the circuit, approaching Blanchimont, the double apex, very high-speed left-hander. And how long will it be before Tom Dillman bites the bullet and pits this 43 car for the final time? It could even be now, and it is now. So for the final time, the 43 will arrive on pit road for a fair old gulp of fuel, but it'll be slightly less than the AO by TF car required.
Well, Louis Delatraz was on pit lane for 1 minute and 4 seconds. So, just exactly what strategic genius can be employed, if any, here by the Polish team to put Tom Dillman closer. 13 minutes to go. Wash, brush up. It's all about fuel. It's all about optimising everything you possibly can. There's no tyres going anywhere near that car. Here comes the 65 car through. This is Sean Malati. He will need to pit, but will take the lead here.
Was that a bit of a comedic moment there where the mechanic was trying to attempt to clean the headlight, and actually there was no headlight there, so he was just scrubbing at fresh air? Thought, well, this is very easy to do. That headlight's long gone.
There he goes.
Cracked and leaves a gaping hole on the front left. It looks all right on the front right, mind, as the 43 car does rejoin.
What we need to see is, where is Delatraz? Delatraz has completed the lap. Tom Dillman is out. AO by TF are ahead, but by how much?
So Dillman down the hill towards Eau Rouge. Charmy Lacey is well into the second sector and still owes us a stop. Louis Delatraz
just ahead of him.
Just ahead, but a minute and 4.
There.
So we.
It's 4 seconds.
Yeah, 4 seconds, but remind me what happened with the tyres for Delatraz. Did they give him 3?
They gave him... They didn't give him tyres.
They didn't do tyres. Well, why did it take 1 minute and 4 seconds? Because you can do fuel in less than that.
Who gave their car 3 tyres?
There was a car that they did. And I'm also wondering why Tom Dillman's pit stop was equal when actually there was less fuel going in, or it was only a lapse less, mind, fewer, whatever the word is. But they've ended up with exactly the same pit stop time, both Delatraz and Dillman, in 1 minute and 4. So that is marginally confusing. I just wonder whether, you know, one car is now in an advantage because it's been given 1 tyre, 2 tyres. They didn't do all 4. Remember, you can't change all 4 at the same time as if it was a Formula 1 stop. So that's why it's important to pick and choose. Do we do no tyre change? Do we do maybe 2? Or do we do all 4 corners?
So, Malisi leads the race, 17.8 seconds, needs to stop. Louis Delatraz pushing on with Tom Dillman. 5.5 seconds back from him now, with Mathieu Vassifier 2.3 seconds back in 4th and leading LMP2 Pro-Am. Marino Sato's had a cracking run. He sits 4th in LMP2, 5th overall, with Malte Jakobsen 2.8 seconds back, having lost 5 seconds in his last pit stop with a penalty.
Going back to the car we're trying to think of that did 3 tyres, was it Felipe Drugovich in the Vector Sports car?
Yes, it was.
Because we were trying to work out why all of a sudden the pace totally dropped off for the Brazilian at Eau Rouge Radion, and then he pitted at the end of that lap and they changed the front left and both front tyres and the rear left it was.
I wonder if they were planning to actually change the loaded side and had a puncture on the other.
That would make sense. There are many different ways you can cut this cake, 4 hours worth, and then it becomes slightly more complicated when you have 3 or 4 safety cars in the opening couple of hours.
It's a strange one here. Drive penalty for car 20. That is the 2nd place car in LMP2 Pro-Am, currently in the hands of Alex Quinn for Alcar Pro Racing. Track limits in the early stages of the race, and that will be because they've still got stuff in the inbox while they were dealing with the carnage we were having in the first 2 hours. Could there be more?
Yeah, because there's every possibility that a lot of stuff now needs to be interrogated that happened in the opening 60 minutes, perhaps.
Correct.
So is that the first of a number of messages with those words tagged on to the end, early stages of the race?
I think the time of that was finish. Well, we always say anything could happen in the last 25 minutes of an endurance race. How long have we got to go, Johnny?
It must be the last few minutes.
It's
26
minutes.
Yeah. And 4 penalties to be issued at this point. Teams will say, well, we've spent all race long, or as much of the race as possible, trying to build gaps, and now you're going to take them away. But if there are offences in the system, and they have to be looked at, they potentially need to be punished as well. As Philippe Albuquerque, who's taking part in his first European Le Mans Series race of the season, car number 21, is being told to respect track limits, but it's nice to have Philippe back in the ELMS ranks with so much success in his past. Has fended a move like that off several times in his career, so will not be fooled. Pedro Perino, though, was very impressive in qualifying yesterday to put his car 3rd fastest in LMP3. The times are very tight.
Apologies. LMGT3, Kessel Racing leading comfortably, 21 seconds. Daniel Serra from Ricky Pera in the GR Racing 86 car. Proto Competitions, Julian Anslauer, the 60 Porsche, 3rd. With the first of the 2 Aston Martins in the hands of Lorcan Hannafin, the Grid Motorsport by TF 97 car, 8 seconds behind, but being caught by Valentina Harzaclo in the other Aston, the 59 Racing Spirit Le Mans car. Nico Ferroni is 12 seconds back from that pair, but lapping 2 seconds a lap quicker.
The 2 LMP3 drivers there needed to be wary that there was a quicker P2 car wanting to get through, which is the Laurence Hoare-driven DKR Engineering LMP2. So they postponed their turn-in point. Into 18 to allow that quicker car by. And Wyatt Brickercheck then to the front of the LMP3 field. Remember, that is the car that could not complete qualifying, a single lap in qualifying, when a rear wheel went wayward on his outlap in quali yesterday.
It started from the back of the field, the very back of the field. Perez Racing from the lead, 23 minutes to go. Their final pit stop. That means that Louis Delatraz has cycled back through to the lead. Tom Dillman follows him through, 4.7 seconds back, 23 minutes to go, and that is the story remaining for the overall win. We've got the yellow flags at turn 5 and 6 and removed, so someone's had a moment, but that has moved on. Malaysia rolling, Malte Jakobsen through into 3rd, 15 seconds back, Marino Sato through into 4th. So Jakobsen has caught and passed Sato. Job van Utrecht trying to get into terms with the Japanese driver and is catching him. He's in 5th. And Charles Malaysia emerges in 6th position from the lead with that final pit stop. Ben Viscal right now leads LMP2 Pro-Am in the 77 car, but I believe needs to stop again. Alex Quinn on his way out from his final pit stop. It's a pit stop, it's a drive-through penalty for Alex Quinn. That was, of course, the penalty drawn for track limits at the start of the race, but stays ahead at the moment of Mathieu Vazevière, but we believe we'll need to stop in the last 20 minutes. So 4.5 seconds is the gap to determine who's going to win this 4 hours of Spa-Francorchamps, round 4 of the 2024 European Le Mans Series on board here with Malte Jakobsen from Denmark. He's got 15.5 seconds to make up to Tom Dillman, 20 seconds to make up to Louis Delatraz. In 22 minutes, that's some task ahead. Of course, the young Dane named as a 2025 factory hypercar driver for Peugeot. Nico Müller moves away from that squad. The reserve and development driver, Malte Jakobsen, champion here in the European Le Mans Series 2 seasons ago in LMP3. 2 seasons from LMP3 to hypercar is some going, some talent. Keep an eye on that gap. It is coming down a little. GT3 order as it was, other than Julian Andlauer beginning to close in on the GR Racing car in second place. Ricardo Pera has just 8 seconds of leverage now over the chasing Proton Porsche. Marino Sato, this is his final stop. Lacey moves ahead to 6th. Also, Luca Giotto moves up a place. Top 8 cars at the moment, separated by about 45 seconds. We've had quite a while under green flag, Johnny Palmer.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been a treat, hasn't it, really, compared to a lot of the rest of the weekend?
Yes, indeed. The gap, by the way, with 20 minutes to go for the lead, under 4 seconds now. So what, in terms of pace, in terms of tyre, in terms of luck, as this lead pair got? Keep an eye too on Malte Jakobsen, but he's shaving tenths, but it's only tenths out of the advantage of the two ahead.
Running slightly off the road there, the Ultimate car ahead of the race leader. That will have been a distraction to Louis Delatraz, but he was far enough away to react to Mathieu Lehay.
So we had that investigation earlier for EDEX Sports. 28 car, that car running 4th at the moment with the Operanuter, so he's trying to close down Malte Jakobsen. Reprimand, tyre pressure violation, first offence. So in racing terms, no immediate drama.
Down the hill goes the race leader, in front by 4.5 seconds over the Inter-Europol competition car of Tom Dillman, who closed the gap to just a couple of seconds, about 1.5 seconds earlier on, but now Delatraz getting his head down, knowing that he can push a bit more on these tyres, and the car's getting lighter, of course, as well. So the closer to the checkered flag he gets, a bit more risk can be worked in to the equation.
Just a bit of time there, but a second to Tom Dillman, but did it with traffic on the Camel Straight. Dillman is not going to get that option. So 3.6 seconds at the moment, but I'm pretty sure that's going to come out because Dillman is going to catch these cars in a less optimal part of the circuit. Great run, though, from both these drivers. There's Dillman. It's the team LMP3 car between. Pedro Perino, I think, still aboard that car. It is. He's dealt with Mathieu Lehay, who's pulled away. Now trying to go into terms with Manuel Espirito Santo to kill racing.
At the head of the order in LMP2 Pro-Am, Bent Visgal in the car that Giorgio Roda started from 2nd position. Roda had taken every pole position up until this point, but couldn't do it yesterday. Rene Binders had a spell in that car as well. And now gold-rated Bent Visgal of the Netherlands bringing that car home in the top 5 as well. In fact, at 4 of the top 10 positions occupied by LMP2 Pro-Am cars.
To Sport under investigation of possible technical infringement. We'll worry about that when we hear about it later. For the moment, completing lap 86, Louis Delatraz, and indeed that traffic has played his way. 5 seconds to the good. And
the difference between the top 2 in LMGT3 is too big, really, for Ricardo Pera to do much about it. 27 seconds, the gap to Daniel Serra. But interesting, they put Pera back in the car. Andlauer's the one on the rise in the 60 Proton competition car.
He's made a bit of progress against Ricky Pera. It's now 6.7 seconds. He's not catching on that quickly. It's always about, isn't it, when you get to the stage where one aspect of performance, whether it's fuel management or tyre management, hits that cliff. How far he's been pushing.
Yeah, and so often a driver of great repute might not actually be noticed a great deal on the timing screen because they are taking it so easy, but then they've got lots of meat on the tyre to lean on at the end of the stint, and the times really do start to tumble there. So 6.4 seconds the gap, Andlauer to Pera. And let's see whether this consistent run from Julian Andlauer can now continue for the final 16 minutes to alter the places on the podium in LMGT3.
Could be trouble for the 97 car. Under investigation, track limits for Grid Motorsport by TF and Lorcan Hannafin. He's under major pressure from Valentino Haase-Clove behind, just a second back. And Nico Veroni under 5 seconds back from the pair of them. That could be costly.
That will certainly alter the places away from the podium. I'm struggling to work out why the Aston Martins have fallen down to the extent that they have, because they were circulating first and second for quite a chunk of the time. Remember when Casper Stevenson was ahead of Johnny Adam, and only about a car length between them, but they've not been able to sustain that performance for the last few stints. So 4th and 5th at the moment, but potentially it's going to get even worse for the number 97 Grid Motorsport car.
So look at Gael Julien. There's a drive-through penalty for the car 97. That is going to cost them 2 places. So Lorcan Hannafin pinged 4 track limits. And the gaps behind to Valentino Haase-Clove and Nico Veroni means that there's the inevitability. It's going to drop the car from 4th to 6th. Here comes the Panis Racing car, Charles Malaysia. He's on the charge, looking to get through. This is a change for position at the moment with Ben Fiscal. Trouble, though, for Julian Andlauer.
He's pushed too hard. Perhaps. I'm rather speculating there.
It looked like a left puncture.
It does look like it's definitely a rear left that's gone down, but is that because he was pushing like crazy to get on the podium and maybe even catch Ricardo Pera as he run over a bit of debris, of which there'll be plenty around the racetrack, despite the rapid amount of sweeping that's been done by the marshals. But it's a rear left that's almost been stripped from that wheel. The carcass is still just about going round the wheel, but it's tucked inside, and he's quite rightly going at the speed that he is to prevent any furth damage. How about this down towards the Lecombe sequence of corners? It's the 65 car getting 5th position overall. So Charles Lacey moving ahead of Ben Fiscal.
Yuka Giotto closing as well. I noticed the background there, so he wants to get involved in this. You can see him just the previous corner. So there's still positional change to come. Lorcan Hannafin is taking that drive-through penalty now and will get out ahead of Julian Andlauer. So he's lost 2 places and gained 1 back, but up into 4th place, 3rd place rather, Racing Spirit Le Mans, but being caught by Nico Veroni. Is it going to be an Aston Martin on the podium? Could it be a Ferrari 1, 2, 3 with 3 different teams?
Yes, and that would be something. Kessel, GR, AF Corsa, all fighting for a position on the podium. But how far up the order can Valentin Haase-Clove get? He's staring at a 30-second gap to make any more forward progress. But yes, the bigger issue is he going to get caught? And this could be tricky for Andlauer to get from one side of the road to the other to access pit lane. I think he was far enough ahead of any traffic approaching the bus stop behind.
Martin Jakobsen seems to be struggling for pace at the moment. He's been caught quickly by Job van Uitert. And the charging Charles Malaysia, the final podium position is up for grabs here.
And Malaysia is wasting no effort at all and has looked far quicker than Job van Uitert on balance. Malte Jakobsen perhaps under pressure as well. He is under pressure as well, but can he stay ahead and not be drawn into, not be distracted too much by it? The problem is it becomes two-pronged, as in Van Uitert and Malaysia are trying to attack, one on one side, one on the other, then Alfie Jakobsen will really have his hands full.
Meantime, in LMP2 Pro, by the way, Alex Quinn cycles back round to the lead as Bent Viscal pits from the 77 car. Surely that car has to pit again. They must be on a massive fuel save in that car. That car has had a very recent drive-through penalty and yet still has cycled round to the lead. I cannot believe that car does not need another pit stop.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Time will tell, and we've only got 11.5 minutes still to go.
If there's one team here I would not try to outguess on strategy, it's Algar Pro Racing.
Yes.
David Leach and his team there are just capable of throwing all sorts of weird and wonderful strategies at things. But in this case, I'm expecting the 20 car to roll down pit lane in the next 10 minutes or so. Louis Delatraz, by the way, still 5 seconds to the good. Duquesne team car in the background there. Under pressure from, and off the track, and that will put the Nielsen car through. Is Nick Yellerly going by James Allen, who looks to have nothing left to give, likely in the rubber department. As this pair get involved, this is the battle ahead of them for the final podium slot. That is Valentino Haase-Clos in the Aston Martin being caught by Nico Veroni. And this is the battle for third, because Job van Uite has caught Malte Jakobsen. Has to be tyres.
Jakobsen on the whole is not caught by anybody.
And look at Malaysia behind as well.
Well, yeah, we already mentioned that Malaysia was closing the gap to Job van Uite, so I was bothered that it may become a pincer movement on Malte Jakobsen. They're still separate, and Job van Uite is going to try it first of all, and Jakobsen just cannot slow him down. He can't do anything about that. And apart from Job van Uite maybe running a bit too deep into Les Combes, and that might have given the Dane the place back again, but he didn't. And here is Charles Milesi to also swallow up the very talented Jakobsen. But in this phase of the race, nothing up his sleeve at all.
No.
And maybe the engineer's kicking himself a little bit now to have been running out of steam with still 10 minutes left on the clock. You want to be doing this as the checkered flag is flying normally.
Didn't even move to defend it. He knew that the game was up. That's the right thing to do at that stage.
I'm sure he's fighting the car quite severely, but I think Job van Uite is not in the ideal phase of his stint either, because the better car by for sure of these three is Charles Milesi in the black, yellow and red. And that is the Panis car.
We're talking about this, by the way, Tom Dillman coming back at the leader again, under 4 seconds. Again, this is likely to be traffic, but just needs one stumble. Nico Veroni right there with Valentino Haase-Clos for the final podium position in LMGT3. It's all coming together nicely here. Alex Quinn 11 seconds ahead of Mathieu Vazevière. Does the Algar Pro car need fuel? 8.5 minutes.
Panis car looking for a way by Job van Uite this time into La Source, but it's probably going to be better to get a good exit out of this corner and make sure. Oh no, I was going to say do it on the Kemmel Straight, but he won't need to, because Job van Uite just couldn't really turn in at La Source. The much more manoeuvrable car of these two is the 65, and Charles Milesi will swallow up Job van Uite to give him third position, up to third ahead of Van Uite.
This has been a hell of a run from Charles Milesi. Meantime, by the way, the 20 car from Algar Pro Racing, the lead in LMP2 Pro-Am, is on pit lane, as we presumed he must. That will cycle Mathieu Vazevière in the AF Corsa car through to 7th overall and the lead of the class.
The other thing that's happened is that Wyatt Bricacek came in for a pit stop too, so that's put Adam Ali along with his teammate Matthew Bell now to the head of LMP3. Remember, that car was in the gravel trap at Les Combes at about half distance, so they've turned this race around spectacularly well too.
So your international lead from Racing Spirit Le Mans and RLRM Sport, and those three are separated by just 11 seconds with 7 minutes to go. What have they got left? Yes. Anton de Can, quick young man, Gail Julien, a quick young man. And that could still be up for grabs. Kessel Racing for GR Racing, that looks done. Valentin Haza close, still fending off Nico Veroni.
Here's the LMGT3 fight for third position. So Verone, as you say, in that 4th spot, and they're both getting monstered by one of the 2 cool racing cars from LMP2, but Verone is able to make the space, and to be honest, there wasn't a great deal of time lost there from either the Ferrari nor the Aston Martin. Maybe a bit more of a gap between the 3rd and the 4th place cars, but we said that Hasklow was going to be under pressure in the closing stages. There's a load of smoke pouring out the back of that cool racing car. It almost as if it looked like it was brake dust, but it was able to slow sufficiently for Lecom.
Race leader behind them, and the gap now 7.4 seconds. It was traffic, wasn't it? Looking as well at Luca Giotto, who is closing Milton Jakobsen now for 5th, and increasingly the young Dane just looks like a sitting target here.
Yeah, how far back is he going to tumble? But he'll know that there's nothing that can be done. If he pushes any harder, the car could potentially be off the road. So he has to balance the frustration with what the car can actually do in this late stage.
Incident involving car 63, that was the Iron Lynx Lamborghini, and 85, the Iron Dames at turn 3. No further investigation necessary.
Well, they were both out of the race, of course. They'd already penalised the 85 for its incident at Lecom corner involving different car. Well, no, the same car, because there was contact nose to tail, wasn't there, between Sarah Bovey and Hiroshi Hamaguchi on that occasion, but it accounted for Sarah at the time, and 2 more Ferraris of Matt Griffin and Johnny Lawson. But they have said no further investigation necessary, probably because both cars were in retirement anyway.
Adam Ali, by the way, has got the message that there could be risk, and LMP3's put in a storming lap that's put another couple of seconds on the chasing pair. All of a sudden, Nico Veroni right back there again. Does a sniff up the outside of the Aston Martin. This is going to be a drag race down the start-finish straight.
Veroni needed to know the Ferrari's dimensions there, because there was about a cigarette paper between the front of the Ferrari and the rear wing of the Aston Martin. Around the outside will go Veroni. Valentin Hasklow, it's a drag race, but the Ferrari's going to win it. He's ahead of the Aston Martin into 3rd position. An awesome overtake late in the day. We're inside the final 5 minutes, and it just shows how much, again, I think down to tyres mainly, how much grip that Ferrari's got on the higher line at the source.
Good run, though, through Rouge Radion from the Aston Martin. Tries to grab the toe from the Duquesne team car. He's going to try and come back at him here. Not sure he's got enough under a car underneath him to do that at this stage. But, yeah, car 57, our leader in LMGT3. Possible technical infringement. Wait and see whether or not that's a drama. 4 minutes to go, Johnny Palmer. 3 seconds the lead gap. Jacques Venuta looking fending off Charles Malaysi for 4th place. It's Luca Giotto going by.
Malaysi's slowing, surely. He hasn't got anywhere near as much speed as Giotto. And there's smoke, a little bit of smoke coming out of the 65. So this is a late drama for Charles Malaysi, because Giotto's got by, and even Malte Jakobsen's quicker than that car now.
Trouble. You're absolutely right.
I didn't understand why Malaysi wasn't defending to Giotto. Is this fuel? Brakes. Or is it tyres? Or is it brakes? It could be any combination of the aforementioned.
As he pushed too hard. Giotto, though, great run. He's now through into 4th.
So maybe he's realised that all of a sudden he can't stop the car as readily as he would wish.
Smoking. It's definitely smoking for the middle of the car.
But that's what I saw out of, I think, the other cool racing car briefly from Ferdinand Habsburg as he slowed for Lecom a couple of laps ago. There was just a massive dark cloud of brake dust.
25 car, Alex Lynn on pit lane. Trouble for the championship winners last year. 2.5 minutes to go. The gap is down to 2.5 seconds for the lead.
And if drivers like Malaysi and Jakobsen, who are going to overlap and change position, But if these guys are struggling with their cars, then there's nothing to stop Louis Delatraz and Tom Dillman to potentially hit issues this late on in the race as well. 2.4 seconds, as you say. It almost feels like we should be calling them through each individual split, because 0.3 of a second was gained by Dillman through sector 1 alone on this lap.
LRM spot, by the way, out of it for the win. They've been in and out of the pits.
So into Les Combes, and Milesi just opens the door and says, I can't do anything with this car at the moment. So through you go, Luca Ghiotto. And this was the overtake, superb, from Nico Varrone around the outside.
Here's another one of these rising stars, isn't he, in sports car racing at the moment. Bright future ahead for that young man from Argentina, of course. Kessel Racing lead from GR Racing, and from now Nico Varrone, Ferrari 1, 2, 3 with 3 different teams. Euro International Racing Spirit Le Mans, DK Engineering up to 3rd place in LMP3, LMP2 Pro-Am, AF Corsa, Proto Competition and Algar Pro Racing at the 1, 2, 3. AO by TF, the gap is down to under 1.6 seconds.
That was 0.7 of a second through the middle sector alone. So that's a full second, 2/3 of the way around the lap that Tom Dillman has gained.
It's this lap and one more. Has he got a problem? Is he managing this? He can't be managing it to 1.5 seconds.
It's not comfortable, is it?
No.
Not comfortable at all. It's certainly not for the AO by TF guys. Here they are, so this is good to get a visual on it. The gap as we begin the final 7 kilometres of this year's 4 hours of Spa-Francorchamps, and it's a second now between Louis Delatraz and Tom Dillman.
And it's this and one more. It's 2 laps to go.
This is called as the last lap, you sure?
They just crossed the line.
They crossed the line, and this is
my apologies.
This is the last lap.
Fine, there's the last lap. So single second. Also closing, Luca Ghiotto is closing on Jon Venuta for the final podium position. After carnage in the first half of this race, the second half has been mesmerising.
It really has, yeah. And that's the beauty of finding your rhythm as a team, as a mechanical crew, as a driver lineup, making sure that you're at one with the car as well. And several, to be honest, have sort of parted company with how the car has wanted to do the race, whether that be, as we said, whether it's through fuel mileage or tyre wear, or in fact brakes, because there's a number of hard stops around this Spa circuit that really do punish the brake pads. Louis Delatraz, though, happy at the moment to be a second ahead, but it's 0.7 through the next split. There's a slowing car there as well. It's one of the Algar Pro Racing cars.
It's getting out of the way, I think. There's also another podium position up for grabs, because 3rd place in LMP3, White Brickercheck under real pressure for Manuel Espirito Santo. But that doesn't matter right now. The clock has run down on the final lap. All of a sudden, the rots seem to have stopped here for Louis Delatraz. And if anything, it's the chasing car of Tom Dillman that seems to be dropping back a little.
Back to a second it was as they head through curve Paul Frere. So Louis Delatraz, along with Robert Kubica and Johnny Edgar, who kicked off this race, and that was through the real trying period as well. But Johnny kept his patience. He handed over to Robert Kubica, and Louis Delatraz has brought it home for the AO by TF outfit's first victory of the season in the European Le Mans Series. It feels like it's been a very long time coming, but truly well deserved. And the British squad are victorious, therefore, after 95 laps. 1.1 seconds, the gap, back to Tom Dillman for the championship leaders in their inter-Europol competition car.
Good points for them. Will it be Jon Venuta? Not home yet. And Luca Ghiotto had the gap under 2 seconds as they're making their way around this final lap.
I should say, actually,
he's home. It's Jon Venuta to complete the podium. Looking who else has made it through. Kessel Racing will win the race in LMGT3. It will be Euro International here, crossing the line with Adam Ali. Matthew Richard Bell, that duo will take LMP3.
Well ahead.
Racing Spirit Le Mans, Antoine Decan. What about the final podium position, though? LMP2 Pro-Am, AF Corsa. Mathieu Vazevier brings the car home with Alessio Rivera and...
Who's that spinning? Who's that spinning in the background? That's the DKR car. So we're going to have a late change on the podium for car number 4. I'm sure that was, yes it is. There's a change there as Manuel Espirito Santo backs a podium spot because Wyatt Bricacek has not made the finish line. You can't make this up, Graham. Honestly, we thought the race has settled down, and then you get that moment. And Wyatt Bricacek, I think, has stalled now. So he can see the finish line out of his right-hand window.
He's lost 4th.
He's lost 4th, but he's not going again yet. So remember yesterday for Wyatt, the wheel fell off. Literally, the wheel fell off the car. And now he does finish, but it's 7th rather than what might have been in 3rd position. Here is the race-winning team in the LM GT3 category. It will be Kessel Racing for Daniel Serra to complete the run, along with Esteban Massan, who did the lion's share of the middle chunk of the race, actually. And every credit to Takeshi Kimura, who got clear his 90 minutes that he needed to do as the bronze very early on indeed. But from a DKR engineering perspective, they wish they had not come to Spa at all this weekend.
It's a horrible day for that squad. Has he made the flag? He has. He did get there, but he lost 4 positions. So that's been
in sight of the finish line.
He will be distraught.
I know, and he's an out-and-out professional, no question about it. He was obviously coming back from the disappointment yesterday of not being able to compete in qualifying, and now has made presumably an error. I don't know whether it was contact or a mistake, but nevertheless, the result is the same. And it's a 7th place finish. But credit to Manuel Espirito Santo, who was pushing like crazy in the closing stages with the merest chance of a podium. Cedric Ultramar, Miguel Cristoval and Manuel Espirito Santo get good points for Cool Racing. As now to celebrate, AF Courses outfit number 83 with Matcha Vaxivier bringing that car to the finish. But there's the trio in AO by TF Sports Car. They are run by a British team, but they're an American-flagged entry. I should correct that from a couple of minutes ago. So the American team, Tom Ferrier's run squad, though, and the all-in-backed AO by TF Sport crew are the winners. And are they now properly in contention for this year's championship?
We'll keep an eye on those points totals. It is a first win.